theyeshiva.net.
Now it's already Parshas Vayikra, so it's very apropos to learn Vayikra. Huh?
What are the odds?
Quite
Yes.
good, I'd imagine.
So page 4, column 2. Page 4, column 2. Please go to the line that starts Sichloi Yuchal Sa'es Lohoilid Miza'ava Azagam Nefesh Shabbat, which is like a little below midpoint of the page. Again, page 4, Likkutei Torah Vayikra, column 2. The line starts Sichloi Yuchal Sa'es. The line before starts Liyos Bebchinas Eskafia. The line before starts the word Levad, you see? So after the words Kefiyah Sichloi Yuchal Sa'es Lohoilid Miza'ava Azagam Nefesh Shabbat. How many lines from the top? 22 lines. Okay, was sich nicht gefeilt, das gezählt. Ich habe sich gefeilt.
Small coffee before we start?
Yeah. So let's remember the pshat and the pasuk, the way the Balatanya explained the opening of Parshas Vayikra. You remember, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel and tell them, Adam ki Yakriv mikem karbon lashem, min ha-behema, min ha-bakurim, min ha-tzayin, takrivu es karbanchem. And all the questions that he asked in the beginning of the Maimer, and he ultimately resolved the questions by explaining the pasuk also from a spiritual, metaphysical perspective. The pasuk is not only referring to the physical sacrifices, it's referring to that as well, of course, ein mikra Yotzim midei pshutai, as the Gemara says in Masechel Shabbos, Samach Gimel. But the pasuk, like every pasuk, has many layers of interpretation, and one of them is Adam refers to Adam ha'elyon, refers kavayachol to Hashem, not Stam Hashem. The way Hashem is defined within what we call Adam, which is basically those qualities through which He's Meir, through which He inspires, He lifts up Neshamas Yisrael and all of the worlds. Adam ki Yakriv mikem, when He's going to bring you close to Him. In other words, when there's going to be what He called Isarusa, the La'ela, an arousal from above to trigger inspiration, something that will light a fire in the Jew, because the Adam is reaching out. The large infinite torch of Hashem reaches into the human heart. And as a result of that, the soul catches on fire. Its fire, its own dormant and latent fire, comes to life. The embers that have never been extinguished are resurrected, so to speak. They emerge because the embers are always there. Sometimes they're dim. Sometimes you can't see the flame, but they're there. So when the large torch comes in, it triggers, it arouses, it's ma'orer, the mata, the Jew. So don't rely on that. Don't just fly with that wave, because, as he says, it's going to pass and it's going to cease. What you need is min ha-behema, min ha-bakur, min ha-tzayin, takrivu es karbanchem. Now you need to work with your own behema, with your own animal soul, and bring that closer to Hashem. In other words, the Isarusa de La'ela must translate into Isarusa de L'sata, into your own initiative and reciprocity. Because if not, you will ultimately be left cold and dry, and even colder and drier than before, because now you'll have the void that comes in after inspiration. Somebody who's never inspired is never inspired. Somebody who feels a tremendous chiyus and then loses it, so now you have to deal with a whole new void of missing that. It's a form of postpartum depression. No, I'm serious. In Sefirah HaKabbalah, when a woman gives birth, it's a gilui of Ein Sof. It's an incredible moment, painful but incredible. She brings a new child into the world. You can't reach a higher space than that. And after that, there's a void. There's a void. So whenever it's the same void that the Jews experienced when Moshe went up to the mountain. You know, you see God face to face by Matan Torah. And what now? What do we know? Lakshan Kugel? I mean, what now? What's supposed to happen after Matan Torah? People wonder why they made a golden calf. That's not the Pella. It's understood. When you have such a void, you'll do anything to fill it. You'll do anything. People will take any type of needle, some people, to fill that void. It's desperate, that desperation of it. After you see God face to face, what do you do now? What are we going to do now? We're going to eat some herring? What do you do? Go shal shal zacher? We're going to surf the web? What do you do now? They made an eagle. They went to the opposite extreme. Epis. They had a complete breakdown of everything because they just needed to satisfy themselves. So, in order to deal with this, you have to realize that Sarusa de La'ela is only an invitation. It's a powerful invitation, and it's a tempting invitation. But really, now it's your turn to show up to the game. Now you have to show up. And that explains why the beginning of the Pasuk is Lashon Yachid, the end is Lashon Rabin. Why the beginning of the Pasuk is Lashon Nister, the end is Lashon Noichach. And why Mikem is in the place where it is. Adam ki Yakriv Mikem, referring to the Jewish soul. And the big explanation in Perek Beis was that there's a reason for this. Because the Sarusa de La'ela speaks to the godly soul, does not speak to the animal soul. The animal soul remains untouched, even as God and his entire entourage, his entire celestial entourage, would come down into your heart and scream, Kadosh, 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 the animal soul will say, it's time for lunch. It's time for lunch. It's time for breakfast. It doesn't get touched. You can't blame it, it's an animal. The only way you could touch the Nefesh Shabbat, Kivayachol, this Hashem relinquished his power and said, this is only you can do. I can't touch your animal soul. This has to be your avodah by understanding its language and communicating to it its language. Each person according to his or her capacity, and that's what he said is Seichel Anushi, speaking to your mind rationally, which can ultimately result in an emotion of the Nefesh Shabbat. And this is, he said, the Derech HaAvodah, that a Sarusa de La'ela must translate it to Sarusa de L'Sata, where you build a bridge with your animal soul. And then your animal soul will never be the same. That will be a whole different experience of Yiddishkeit. Once your animal soul is touched, now you began the process. This is where Avodah begins. And not only that, the tachlis of the Nefesh Elikis coming down is to speak to the animal soul, to talk to it, to sublimate it. Not to run from it, not to obliterate it, and not to make believe it's not there. To speak to it, to educate it, to the point that the Nefesh HaBahamis could say, you know, this is pretty cool. Why? Because remember, the animal of the man wants survival. It wants gratification. It wants existence. That's why it likes potato chips or vanilla ice cream. It wants gratification. It just has nothing with godliness. When you can explain to it, Kirvas Alekim Li Toiv, as the Pasuk says in Tehillim, Kirvas Alekim Li Toiv, you can explain the meaning, the truth of godliness, of Elikus, in a way that the animal soul can understand it, then it creates a dent. And that dent doesn't go away. But you have to speak its language. I can't come into a classroom where everybody speaks Mandarin and speak in Yiddish. I can't. Yiddish is a wonderful language. Lashon Kodesh is even a more wonderful language. But they don't understand it. They don't understand the language. They don't understand. Yeah. Sometimes you have shiurim of people who, let's assume that they're like holy people or inspired people, and they're speaking very holy words. But you see that the audience is not being touched. Why are they not being touched? Maybe a part of them is being touched, but a certain part of them is completely untouched. Because you're not touching their animal soul, the Nefesh HaBahamis. You're not touching that. To touch the animal soul, you have to speak its language. Its language is its own language. It's a different language. It's an animal language. And therefore, even a person who's inspired with his Nefesh Elikis Be'emes, which is in itself a Chiddush, it may be that the beginning of the purpose of his Avodah, he didn't even begin yet, which is to heal, to be Mesaken, his Nefesh HaBahamis. Sometimes the Nefesh Elikis is on fire. Sometimes the Chelik Elikam Imal is on fire. But the Nefesh HaBahamis wasn't touched. And the moment the Nefesh Shabbat goes back into hiding because the big fire is gone and it's not going to last forever, he's left often with a terrible, terrible void and emptiness to the point that he may go to the other extreme completely because the pain of the absence is too difficult to deal with, and even become angry and disillusioned on all of the past memories because he feels it's false. The truth is, it wasn't false. It was real. It was just real in a certain place of you, and there's other parts of you. And that ability to be able to understand the full self and not deny any of it is the great idea of Avodas Hashem. Yeah.
Pain comes from the nefesh. The pain, the void, and the lie.
That's a good question. Consciously, the void comes from the Nefesh Elokis. Unconsciously, there's also the void that comes from the Nefesh Bahamas, whose internal sparks yearn to be sublimated. Between the two, the conscious void and the unconscious void, you messed up. You know what I mean? I shouldn't say messed up. You're challenged. You're in conflict.
That's the pain.
Yeah. The pain is consciously from the Nefesh Elokis. What happens to a body that doesn't eat for a while? Yeah, we become hungry. What happens when we become hungry? Most of us become grouchy. Yeah, that's why it's a good idea before you go home, yeah, to go eat something. Eat something. If you have to go to a restaurant and eat a full dinner, to eat, and then when your wife makes dinner, 3 hours later you'll eat a second time. Nishka. Because people are hungry, they're grouchy. Yeah? Now what happens to a Nefesh Elokis that's hungry? It's also grouchy. The soul becomes grouchy. It's a different type of grouchiness, but it's the same idea. There's an anxiety. It's an anxiety. It's looking. It's being. You can't starve your soul your whole life and expect it to be in a good mood. The soul needs to be nurtured. The animal soul has two versions of nurture. That's where the work is. And this is only through his beingness. It's only through real conversations with the animal soul. Because if not, sometimes people go into a shul, they're singing beautiful nigunim. And you anybody has that? And you get uplifted. You like melt away in the music. And you feel like you're one with God. You feel like you're one with Klal Yisrael. You feel like you're one with the world. Sometimes you go to a situation where everyone is on fire, or it looks like they're on fire, and you melt. And you feel like you're really uplifted. And the Baal HaTanya says, be careful. Now, on one hand, it's like, why do you have to be a party pooper? You know, why do you have to ruin the party? Mezingt, there's Slavos, there's Dveikas, everyone is Achmei Hashemayim. Let it go! Because emes. It's not emes. It's not emes. And if it's not emes, ultimately it's going to disintegrate. It's nice, it's sweet, it's ecstatic, but it's not real. What do I mean real? It's not real that it's fake. We're not talking here about shakronim, gazlonim, idiotim. We're not talking about that. That's a category that deserves a separate shir, but he doesn't even go there because that wasn't even part of the vocabulary here.
That's sustainable.
Huh?
That's sustainable.
When we say sheker here, we don't mean a sheker, lowly, despicable lies. We're talking about subtleties here. It's emes, but it's emes for the chelik alekami mal in you. So you melt it away. 2 hours later, you're going to be back home. Or next day, you're going to be back home. Or next year, you're going to be back home. Whatever it is, next one. As long as you can stay up there, stay on Har Sinai, you're going to hate. But you're going to come down. And for this, I have to know my animal soul and I have to speak to it. And there's only one way. I have to explain chassidus to it. You have to explain chassidus to your animal soul. You have to explain it. You have to explain pnimiyus haTorah. You have to explain elikus. You have to explain godliness to your animal soul. And the animal soul understands. The animal soul is not stupid. We call him animal. He's not he's nicht azah behema. How do I know he's nicht azah behema? Because, a behema of zwei fish. It's not like the behema they told you in Cheder, bist a behema. This is a größer behema. Because for this behema, the whole neshama came down into the world. So it's not such a, you have to realize. We're told behema here, it's not behema like a despicable behema. We're dealing tzar balachayim d'oraisa.
Does the Torah you learned in the 9 months in the womb have any remnant in the animal soul also that it recognizes it when you're coming to talk to it now?
I think for sure. There's a beautiful Torah from the Chidushei Harim. Shma b'ni musar avicha v'al titosh Torah simecha. Ask the Chedush Harim, what's the difference between your father's Musar and your mother's Torah? And why is your father's called Musar and your mother's called Torah? And why by your father it says listen, Shema, and by your mother it doesn't say listen, it says don't abandon Torah Simecha. So the Chedush Harim says very, very movingly that there is the Torah we learn from our fathers as we grow up. There is the Torah we learned in our mother's womb, 9 months. He says that's Torah is not Musar. That's Torah Simecha. Your father tells you what to do. In the 9 months, they didn't tell you what to do. They taught you Torah. It says, Shema b'ni Musar ivicha. The Musar of your father you have to listen to. You never heard it before. Torah of your mother you already know. It's in the Bekishkas. You already know it. Al titosh Torah Simecha. Don't let go of what you heard in the womb. Al titosh Torah Simecha. You already hear it. Where do you see this? What's the ramifications of this? You know when you heard a niggin and you loved it and you try to remind yourself the niggin and it's not coming to you. And you ask somebody, do you remember this song? No, it's not that, it's not that. You don't remember what it is, but you know what it's not. Right? If you don't remember what it is, maybe it's something else. No. You know what it's not. You don't know it enough to be able to identify it positively, but when somebody sings it, this is it. Yeah. That's the purpose, the Balatanya writes somewhere else in Likkutei Torah and Shlach, why we learn Torah for 9 months in the womb of the mother. If you're forgetting it anyway, so what's the point? What's the point? I teach you something for 9 years, 9 months, and then you forget it. So don't teach it. Hashem wants you to remember it. So tell the Malach not to give the Gemara says in Niddah that after the 9 months, Bam Malach v'satri al piv, the Malach gives you a patch on top of your mouth, a clap, a bang, and you forget Meshakre Kol HaTorah Kula. Right? They used to say that's this little thing under the nose. Yeah, I just once asked a question, why do the Japanese have it? But then the Malach gave me a second smack, so that was that's how they dealt with that question. I thought it was a good question. Why do the Japanese have it? I don't know, whatever. But that was that. So
I thought it was a good question.
I also think it's a good question. I still don't have an answer. The Gemara doesn't say it's that. That's what the Welt says. The Gemara says the Malach comes and Satri al Piv Meshachar Kol HaTorah Kula. So the Alter Rebbe asks, the Balatanya asks, what's the point? The point is, you hear a niggin, you forget it, you can't remember it. But when you hear it, you say that's it. And the main thing is, when you hear other nigunim,
That's not it.
it's not it. A Yiddish neshama hears a lot of things throughout its life. It says, it's not it, it's not it, it's not it. Some go to India. Some go to Tibet. Some go to Thailand. Some go from one side of the world to another side of the world. They spend their years and years, like some people in this room. Either geographically they go around or existentially they travel everywhere. They're looking for the niggin. And they hear there's a lot of melodies out there. In Likkutei Maharan, you have in Likkutei Maharan Yidden, there's a whole section there that everything has a niggin. Da, he says, no, everything has a niggin. The Rabbi Nachman says, even Apikursus has a niggin. That's what he says. But you're singing the wrong niggin. Everything has a niggin. So you hear nigunim, you hear a lot of melodies, but it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. And then you hear the niggin, and you just know it's that. That's Torah Simecha. That's Al Titosh Torah Simecha. And the truth is, if you really, the emes is as follows. How do you know you're listening to Torah? And how do you know you're teaching Torah? If what you hear, you already knew. If somebody tells you something that you didn't know already, it's not Torah. If it's Torah, you knew it already. And you know that you knew it already. I don't mean that you knew all the information and you knew it in a scholastic, organized way. But you knew it. It resonates. It goes in a very deep place. If it does not, be careful. It may not be Torah. It can be Torah's lakshan. It can be Torah's abuse. But it's lav dafka Torah. If it's real Torah, you're not telling people something new. You're telling them something that they really, maybe subconsciously, but it's very, very deep. It's a niggin that they heard already. It's a niggin they heard already. Al titish Torah simach. That's the parameter if it's real Torah. If it's not real Torah, then it's new things. Kol mashatal, the Gemara says, Kol mashatal medvasik asid lechadash, hakol nitin l'moshe misinai. Yeah? So, once the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe Rashavi was talking about different places. So he said that you have places where people learn Torah, and they're mechadish chidushim. And he said the problem is that they're real chidushim. The hainu lo nitnu l'Moshe Sinai. It's real chidushim because it wasn't given to Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. In other words, real Torah is not real chiddush. It's a chiddush in the sense it may be creative, brilliant, and this, but it's not completely new. It has resonance already in Jewish history and in the Jewish soul. Okay, so therefore, deep down, the animal soul also knows who it is. But this is the avodah that's necessary to bring it up, to sublimate it. So now let's continue inside. He says, "Umitchila tzadich liya is skafia b'shloisha levushay nefesh. Machshava dibur u'maisa b'sur meida avasei toiv v'achikach yovel l'bchinas is habcha." There's no way, however, that a person can transform his animal soul to kedusha, that it should desire kirvas elikim, closest to Hashem, if you don't have control over your animal soul. If you don't have control over it, you can't work with it. And this is also a very important truth. There's no inspiration without control. We love skipping steps. We love jumping to ischapcha before iskafia. He says if you now have the ability of iskafia, iskafia means to subdue. The word iskafia comes from the word koifa, like koifa noisayat sheyayim haroitzani. Iskafia b'shloish levushay nefesh, machshava dibur u'maisa. If a person cannot control the three garments of his soul, which are thought, speech, and action. Every soul has two dimensions. There is the midos and there are the garments. What's the difference? Garments, clothes, you put on, you take off. You say your suit got dirty, so take it off, change it. My shirt is too small, so change it. My shirt is filthy, so change it. What does it take to change? Yeah, if you're lazy, you don't want to change it. But it doesn't take surgery to change your clothes. Unless you're married to them. And hopefully you're not. What about if I say, oh, your nose is too long? Okay, I'll change it. Not so simple. May not be a very good idea on many levels. Halachically, psychologically, emotionally. But it's not simple. Cosmetic surgery is not simple. A body you don't just change. You don't just change. You're obese. Okay, it's a process. You don't need surgery, but it's sometimes not, but it's a process. Levushim, you take off, you move, you put on. So the Balatanya says there's two top parts of the Nefesh Bahamas. There's the midos of the Nefesh Bahamas, its desires, and then there's machshava dibur maisa, thoughts, words, and deeds. Thoughts, words, and deeds are levush in their garments. Words, you could stop saying them. Emotions, you can't change easily. You have to work on emotions. But machshava dibur maisa, you put on, and you take off. In other words, we are dressed in our thoughts. We are dressed in our words. We are dressed in our deeds. And this is an important idea. Thoughts are not you. Thoughts are levushim. We think that our thoughts are us. It's not true. Thoughts are garments that you put on. Sometimes we get so connected to our levushim, we can't separate. They're like glue to us. But any thought you're having is not you. It's a levush in which you get dressed up. We sometimes have these crazy, crazy thoughts. That's fine, but it's thoughts. And thoughts are jackets. You take them off, you put them on. You could bring in new thoughts into your life. That does not require transformation. That requires discipline. Machshava, dibur, maisa. Conscious thoughts, conscious words, conscious actions. Before you get control of your Nefesh Bahamas, there's no way you can transform it. Actions are also thoughts. Actions are thoughts, deeds, words, and thoughts versus emotions. Emotions, I kind of say, I hate this person. Okay, start loving them. That's a lie. I can't. I have to work on it. I could work on it, but I have to, it's work. What about stop talking? That's not work. Stop. I mean, it may be work in the sense I don't want to stop talking, right? I don't want to take off my suit, but you could stop talking. The words are not you. The words are not essential to you. They are garments in which you get dressed, in which you clothe yourself. You express yourself through your garments. I don't come here without clothes. I come through my clothes. You see me through my clothes. You're not looking at my skin. You're looking at my clothes. We're all dressed up. In life, we're dressed up. We're dressed up in thoughts, words, and actions. But it's a very sophisticated idea that your machshavas are levushim. We don't think of it that way. We look at our thoughts as essential to who we are. When you have thoughts about somebody, that is exactly who you are. It's not. It's your thoughts about them. The same is true words, And the same is true deeds. The chiddush is thoughts, because thoughts are much more internal, of course. Words and deeds, we know that you could stop speaking, you could stop doing. It goes even more than this. You could say things that you don't feel. You can't feel things that you don't feel. You can't feel things that you don't feel. You could say things that you don't feel. People do it all the time, right? They say, you're a great guy. I love you so much. They don't, whatever, I respect you. Yeah? Or as people say, I'm not lying, I'm telling you the truth. You know when people start telling you that? I'm not lying.
And there's the whole approach of this thing of Achar Pulos Nimshachas Halavavos, that it's okay.
No question, yeah. No question. Achar Pulos Nimshachas Halavavos, because our levushim affect us. You know, they want clothes make the man in a certain sense, but they're still clothes. They once spoke about two people who were trained to be bodyguards, to be security guards, but they were stationed in two different places. One was stationed in a maximum security prison, and the other one was stationed in a museum of art. And they met after 30 years. The language of one was very different than the language of the other. Where he spent time with, how he had to dress up every day, who he was around, you understand? So levushim have an impact. You hang around in certain places, it touches you. Not that he was more educated or more refined, he wasn't. But he was around, you know, art, and he was around murderers. It's a whole different expression, a whole different system. I'll call upon him. So he says, before you transform your animal soul, you first have to be able to be koy for your animal soul. Koy for your animal soul means you have to have control over it. A conversation can't happen if there's no commitment on some level. So that's what iskafia means. Sur meirav aseh tov. And then va'achar kach yavu lebchinas eshabcha. If I don't have control over the levushim, I won't be able to get to the next step. Gam pirush min habehema. Also, when it says in Chumash, min habehema, min habakar, min hatzayin, literally it means, we explained what? You have to bring a carbon from your nefesh habahamis. But he says really it means something deeper. Min habehema hainu kemavur la'el. Shekadei lahachni olavar nefesh habahamis udafka der sharshum mekaira. The only way to subdue and refine the animal soul is by tracing it back to its own root and source, by tracing it back to the face of the ox in the Merkava, in the vision of Yecheskel. V'zeu shemaskinim b'shtayim shalafaneh dekrishmech shamalachim v'chayis hakodesh makdishim u'mamlichim mefarim meshabchim aritzim makdishim mamlichim shemizeh dafke tispol nefesh habahamis v'zeu min habehema takriva in ubchines pnei shorish habamerkava. This is very deep. Min habehema means the way to elevate the animal soul is from the animal soul. Min habehema takrivas kam. Don't think you're going to transform your animal soul by bringing in a foreign influence. No. Min habehema. You have to show the nefesh habahamis who it really is. That's why before Krishma, we speak about chayos hakodesh, the holy animals. We speak about who are the chayos hakodesh. The chayos hakodesh are the angels that declare kadosh, makdishim. Why we get into all of that before Krishma? It's really a conversation with the animal soul, because the animal soul is rooted in those animals. The chayas down here come from the chayas hakodesh. The behemoths down here come from the behemoths lamaila. That's why Yecheskel sees in his Merkava the face of an ox, the face of an eagle, the face of a bull, the face of an ox, the face of a lion, also the face of man. The Nefesh Elikis comes from Pnei Adam. The Nefesh Habahamis comes from Pnei Shen. Over there it's all Kedusha. You're dealing with Malachim, you're dealing with Strafim. Birash, Godel, Misnasim, there's a Rash. So the passion that your animal soul has here, for whatever it is, for money, for covet, for food, for this taiva, for that taiva, that Rash, that tremendous craving of your animal soul is really the Rash, Godel of davening. It's the same Rash. It's just lost in translation. It just gets distorted in its outlet. But the energy is there. So the Eitz is not to obliterate your animal soul. The Eitzah is to align it with its own true source. To bring it back to its own spirit. In other words, all of its rebelliousness that you're observing, you have to have the courage to be able to strip the outer layer from the inner layer. Like in education, you have a child who's very, very rebellious or very, very defiant. One method of education is just crush him, destroy him, as much as possible. You know, put him in solitary confinement for 9.5 years until he learns to be a mensch. That is one of the most destructive hashkafas in life. Why? For many reasons. First of all, if you're successful, you'll destroy a person. You'll destroy a person. If you're unsuccessful, you'll create far more rebellion and hate and estrangement. But there's much deeper, that's mitzat pashat practicalities. But on a deeper level, it's a complete misunderstanding of the child. The rebelliousness, the defiance is an energy. The energy itself is not a bad energy. There's a certain creativity, there's a certain passion. There are needs, you're not meeting his needs. So therefore, he's finding outlets for his passion in maybe destructive ways. But there's creativity there, there's a soul there. You have to be able to capture that energy and give it the proper outlet. Not destroy it. Not destroy it.
But he's calling this Ishabcha. This doesn't sound like Ishabcha. This sounds like the...
No, this is how Ishabcha happens.
But we've always spoken about Ishabcha versus...
Iskafia.
No, versus Iskafia. This...
No, right.
Oh, I'm mixing up the terms.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, he went to the next step.
Oh, okay.
He went to the next step. So mina behema itself, you have to be megala who the behema is on its own. Mina behema takrivu es karbanchem. You don't bring the carbon from something else that crushes the behema. You have to be megala. You have to reveal the shorish, the source of the behema himself. Mina behema, from the shorish of behema. But why does he say min habakar min atzayin? Min behema takrivu es karbanchem. Behema is the nefesh Shabbos. Behema is the source of the nefesh Shabbos. He says, "Pirush min habakar min atzayin." Why does he say after? Two types of behemoths, bakar and tzayin. Physically, we know because there's two types of karbonis. You could bring a carbon, a bull, or you could bring a carbon, a sheep. Two different types of karbonis. We're talking about a carbon oil here, so oil is only zachar, only male. But it could be a bull or it could be a sheep. There could be different karbonis. He says spiritually, hainu shnei madregas chalukas sheyesh ben nefashos habahamiyos. Generally, there are two types of nefesh habahamiyos. Two types. Either you're a bakar or you're a tzayin. Two personality types. He's going to go through now two personality types, and everybody could raise their hand when they hear their own description. Yeshmi, in other words, there's no one animal soul. It's not like there's one type of... Every animal soul is unique. Yeshmi shum abchinas bakar. You have somebody who's a bakar. What's pshat a bakar? Bakar is a bull. Shor nagachu. He's basically a shor nagach, as the pasuk says in Mishpatim. Shor nagach means an untamed bull that gores. Bchinas gvuris kashas. Intense gvura. Intense severity. V'hainu, for example, mishul kasam betiva. Somebody who by nature is angry. His temperament is one of impetuous, impulsive, and angry. Shemidir ra zui boy betakburis yoiser. This negative quality is very strong by him. V'yichuna b'shem bakar al shem haratchanos. So why is he called a bakar? Because basically he's like a shor nagach. He gores, he screams, he gets angry, he loses himself, and all of the subcategories that come with this. But it's just this general description of an untamed bull who goes wild. Screams, how ratchanas means gets zudik, it gets very heated up and angry. You have somebody actually is not. He's a calm person. He's not a hot-blooded person who gets angry, loses himself, screams. His issue is different. He's not angry, just completely no control over his life. He's a baltaiva. He's a shefela. Sheep don't gore. They don't gore anybody. On the contrary, their voice arouses compassion. But the tzayin abali taivas, it's a whole different experience. Different. Bakar, their koil is not ma'ir rachmanas. They're bulls. They're bulls. That's their Indian. Their aggression. They're bulldozers. Tzayin fakir, they're very nice. They're very soft. But it's a different. It's like a lethal. It's a lethal component. Because they geben sich noch. They don't, they geben sich noch, huh?
Not exposing themselves.
Not exposed.
Really
They
are.
geben sich noch. They indulge in the name of self-love and kindness to a point where they're not really loving themselves. They're destroying themselves. Hine kol eila tzarich le'kafia. So that's why the pasuk says, all this needs kfiyah. V'zel sheksiv min ha'boker min ha'tzoyin takrivos karbanchem. Meaning, kol echad l'fi ma deyada b'nafsho imu husevetivoi. Every person, you have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you can't begin this process because there's no self-awareness. So each person has to know in his soul and in his essence, his nature. Kach yirili kafya midazu. So he has to work on this midah. If you're tzoyin and you're working on bakar, it's meaningless. If you're at bakar, you're working on tzoyin, it's meaningless. You know, as the Baal Shem Tov says, Ezo gibur hakoivish es yitziroi. Should have said hakoivish es hayetzer. I'll tell you why. It's not koivish es hayetzer. It's koivish es yitziroi. It's easy for me to conquer your Yetzirah. People do it all the time. They say, Yetzirah, I would never do this. You would never do that. But what's your Yetzirah? You do plenty. HaKovish is Yetzirah. It's a whole different cheshbon. It's to be able to conquer my own issue. And Baruch Hashem, everybody got their own skeletons to deal with. So he says, everyone needs to know B'nafshay Muhusay V'tuvi Kach Yirli Kafya Midazu. So the pasuk can't just say Min HaBehema Takrivu Was Karbanchem. Min HaBehema. But what's Pshat Min HaBehema? Now you have to know. You have to get into the subcategories. There's bakar, there's tzoyin, different types. And of course, these are general categories. Each one includes so many, just like no two sheep are alike, no two bulls are alike. In that itself. But it's generally, one is midas harat chones, shernagach, and one is fakert. It's a whole different inyan. One is you're too hard on yourself, and one is you're too easy on yourself. You know, both are not, both don't work. A therapist once told me that as damaging as it is to children to tell them that they're nothing, it's equally damaging to children to tell them that they're everything. You know, some children hear a message that you're a nobody, and some children hear the most perfect creature who ever lived since Sheshes and Ebereshis, and both produce people who can't function. Very hard time to function. So you have to know exactly what your midah is. And then the carbon will endure. Why will it endure? Because there's going to be Isarusa de Lasata. In other words, when I say I'm not going to rely on the inspiration, I have to work on this particular issue that I'm struggling with, and work with it, and talk to it, and be kaifit, and then be mahapachit, then it's going to be a davar amiskayim. That's the end. Then it's going to be able to endure. It won't dissipate after this Isarusa de Layla is gone. Why won't it dissipate? Because you were affected. You showed up in the process. You're part of the relationship. And therefore he says, okay, 8 lines from the bottom, page 4. It says on the top, Vayikra. Look at the Torah of Vayikra. Make sure it says Vayikra on the top. Page 4. 8 lines from the bottom, the second column. The line starts, Le'kafya midazu, vaziyah davar hamiskayim. There's enough Likkutei Torahs, by the way. Somebody asked me they wanted to buy. There's enough Likkutei Torahs? Yeah? There are enough?
Yeah.
Okay. No, somebody bought, but somebody asked me if he should buy more. Okay. Okay, you see 8 lines from the bottom. There's a period after Chuli v'zel mashcheni acharecha narutza. So when the pasuk says min habehema, min habakura, min hatzayin takrivu es karbanchem, because every person struggles, and the word is not necessarily struggles. Every person deals with a different type of animal inside of them. Generally, we have 3 categories here in Chumash: min habehema, min habakura, min hatzayin. Behema is the generic term, which is the Nefesh Shabbat, which symbolizes the Nefesh Habahamis, the animal biological consciousness, which is really the electricity of the body, and it gives us our basic animal personality. It has emotions, it has instincts, it has cravings, it has addictions, it has thoughts, and it tries to figure out the most comfortable way to live and how it could get away with whatever it can get away in terms of what the Behema understands. And you have specifically the Bakar and the Tzayin, which the Balatanya represents 2 personalities. One is Bakar, one is Tzayin. Bakar is the Shar Nagach, the untamed, aggressive bull, which represents aggression, a hot temperament, impulsiveness, kas, anger, midas haratchonis. Person is very hot-headed and hot-blooded. They lose themselves, they insult, they scream, they denigrate. Whether internally or externally. Remember, sometimes you have a shar nagach on the outside, sometimes you have a shar nagach on the inside. Some of us explode, and some of us implode. It doesn't minimize the anger, it just internalizes it. But it's there, and sometimes it's there in a very profound way. It's probably still better than people who scream and holler, because at least if it's inside, there's a certain serenity on the outside, but on the other hand, it can also be more dangerous, because it doesn't come out. It's not dealt with. It sits inside, and it eats up on the person's heart, and therefore it also eats up on their relationships, because it's deeply embedded. Then you have the other category, which is tzayin, and he says tzayin, sheep, are not aggressive. On the contrary, sheep, as we know, are very docile animals. Your vase was docile, mate?
Tame. Peaceful, calm.
Peaceful, calm, submissive. They mevatel themselves. They follow the herds. It's not a shar nagach. It's not even a goat. Goats are stubborn, sly. Sheep are submissive. In Yiddish, you'll call somebody a shefela, right? In English also, he's a sheep. Sheep means,
I think the definition is that it's the only animal that lets you cut off
the wool, yeah.
Sheer.
without
Sheer, it's here. There's a pasuk in Yeshaya. Kirachol lifnei goizezeha ne'elama. A ewe remains silent in the presence of her shearers. She doesn't protest.
Where's the pasuk in
Yeshaya. Kirachol lifnei goizezeha ne'elama. She remains quiet. Of course you can be both. What's the question? Of course you can be both. Probably we have both. Sometimes one is more emphasized, but the tzayin represents the Baal Taiva, Elastic Volgain. The Baal Taiva Kert, he's Ma'ir Rachmanis. He knows how to get his way. Kommt mit gut und nicht mit schlecht. The Shar Nagach is going to kill you. The tzayin is going to get you to love him. And the main thing is, to do what you want. So he's a Baal Taiva. So he says every person has his own mohus that he has to identify and work with that. Do iskafia with that, and then the Sarusa de La'ela will be a Davar HaMiskaya.
Is this the Rachel and Leah that you always talk about?
Okay. I mean, I wasn't... you mean Rachel as a sheep. Rachel means a ewe. And what's Leah?
I guess tzayin.
I don't know that Rachel was a sheep and Leah was a shar nagach. I wouldn't... you don't see that. Leah, we learned in the Maimon, Vayetzi means exhausted. Leah was Amadiskasya. Leah struggled. Leah was very deep, but that's probably a different category. Who Rachel? No, he's saying it says that Rachel is from the word Rachel, which means a sheep. It does say that. It's brought in Sefirah. V'zeu mashcheni acharecha narutza. This is the pshat. There's a pasuk in Shehashirim. Mashcheni acharecha narutza, heviani hamelech chadarov. What is the meaning of this? Literally, mashcheni means draw me, like mashicha, draw me in. Acharecha narutza means after you we shall run. So mashcheni is draw me in. Acharecha narutza, after you we shall run. So we have here in this pasuk the same issue. What happened? Okay. Let me read the pasuk in Shehashirim. So Shehashirim Perek Aleph pasuk Dalet. Because he's going to be medayek here in the pasuk, so it's going to now become clear. Right at the beginning of Shehashirim. Moshcheni acharecha narutza. Heviani amelech hadorov. Nagila v'nismecha bach. Naskira doidecha meyayin meisharim ahivucha. Draw me in. After you we shall run. The king has brought me into his chambers. When we think about this pasuk grammatically, again it seems off. Moshcheni is lashon yachid. Draw me in. Acharecha narutza is in the plural, Lashon Rabbim. After you we shall run. Heviani is back to Lashon Yachid. The king brought me into his chambers. That's number one. Number two, the first half of the pasuk is about the future. And then you go to the past. Draw me in. After you we shall run. The king has brought me into his chambers. So why are you asking him to draw you if he already brought you into his chambers? So the Balatanya says, based on all of the explanations, it will become clear. Mashcheni Lashon Yachid Mashcheni, draw me in, not we, not us. Is only draw me Lashon Yachid. In other words, it's the Isarusa de La'ela, the arousal from above that only inspires the divine soul, not the animal soul. So that's why it's Mashcheni Lashon Yachid. It's only one part of me, one dimension of me. It's not all of me. It's not us, the animal soul and the divine soul. Because as we explained, the Isarusa de La'ela only touches. It only triggers the divine soul, the Chelik Elokam Mimal, which for it, Avas Hashem is very natural. It's very organic. So therefore, when the Avuka, when the torch of the divine becomes present in the human heart, the Nefesh Shabbat arouses. The Nefesh Shabbat is fully triggered. That's Mashcheni, draw me in. Then you have the next step. What's the next step? The next line. There's a maramok, there's a footnote, and then the next line. The next step is that the Nefesh Shabbat needs to work with the animal soul. That's the narutza in the plural. Now he says narutza in two meanings. Literally, narutza means that we shall run. But the word narutza, rotz, comes from the word rotzon. Have a rotz l'dvar mitzvah. Rotz means to run, like ritza, right? Rotz also, it's the same etymology like the word rotzen, and it really means the same thing. When you have a desire to something, a rotzoi, you're yearning, you're running after it. Whether you're running after it physically, you're running after it emotionally, but that's what a rotzen is. Rotzen means I gravitate to something. I have a ritza to it. It's the same word. The Medrash says about Eretz Yisrael, Lama nikra shma Eretz, sherotzah salasas ritzayin kaina. Eretz Yisrael organically is a land in which there's a rotz. Rotzah both in terms of rotzah in desire, and rotz as in running, yearning. So mashcheni, draw me in. Who's me? I'm asking you to inspire my nefesh alekis. Acharecha narutza, and then I will take that, and I won't just ride with the wave. I'll speak. I'll encourage. I'll sublimate my animal soul. Narutza. Both of us will run, and both of us, with both of our passions, with the ratzon, the will of the godly soul and the animal soul. And then the pasuk goes to step 3. Hevi ani hamelech chadarav, back to Lashon Yachid. The king has brought me into his chamber, chadarav, from the word cheder, into his chadarav, into his personal chambers, back to me. So you started with me, you went to we, and then you went back to me. So he explains, ki chadarav hainu shito sidre mishnah. Chadarav, his inner chambers, represents the 6 Zdarim of the Mishnah. Basically represents the structure of Torah Shabbal Peh, which Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi divided into the 6 Zdarim of Zroyim, Moyed, Nashim, Nezik, and Kachim Taras, which are of course the 6 categories, 6 sections of Mishnah, upon which all the Talmud, all the Gemara is also built on. Shehein Pchines Chagas. The Mishnayos, the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, represent Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, or Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. Rosh Tevis Cheder. Chadarav, the king brought me into his cheder. Cheder is an acronym of 3 words. Chesed is ches, Daled is din, and Reish is rachamim, which is chagas, chesed, gvura, tiferes. Chesed is love, kindness. Din is judgment, and rachamim is empathy, compassion. What's the connection? Why? You tell me, V'yani Amelech Chadarav into the world of Torah, the world of Shisha Sidra Mishnah. This is chesed, din, rachamim, or chesed, din, chesed, gvura, tiferes. Cheder. Shemehem nimshich kosher posel tamei Torah chayav zakai. Because it's from these emotions, chesed, din, and rachamim, that you have all of the halacha. Sometimes the halacha says it's kosher. Your sukkah is kosher. Sometimes the halacha says your sukkah is posel. It's disqualified. Sometimes the halacha says the food is tamei. The keli is tamei. Sometimes the halacha says the keli is tahor. The person is pure. Sometimes the halacha says chayav. Shimon has to pay Reuven $10,000, 10,000 shkolim. Sometimes the halacha says zakai. He's innocent. He goes there 3 different categories of halacha. But you'll see one is positive, one is negative, right? Kosher, pasul. Tamei, tahir. Chayev, zakai. Different sugis. If you're talking Seder Moyed, usually it's going to be kosher, pasul. If you're talking Seder Nezikin, it's going to be chayev, zakai. If you're talking Seder Taris, the vocabulary is not going to be chayev, zakai or kosher, pasul. The vocabulary is going to be tahir, tamei. But the point is, one represents chesed, one represents din, and then you have different perspectives. You have rachamim. So all of Shisha Sidrei Mishnah represent either chesed or din or rachamim. They come out of that. Haviyani Amalek Hadarav means he brings me into this cheder, to the world of Torah. Haviyani Loshen Avar, why does it say in the past? You're talking about the future. Why suddenly do you go to the past? This is based on what the Gemara says in Maseches Nida. Because when the fetus is in the womb of its mother, Reb Simlai says, when the fetus is in the womb of its mother, Ner Dolaka Roshai, a candle burns on its head, and they teach the fetus the entire Torah. When the neshama is still in a state of pregnancy, so to speak, just like the body is in a state of impregnation in the womb of the mother, the neshama also is still in a state of potentiality. Everything is first in a state of pregnancy, and then it emerges from concealment to revelation. First you have a dream inside of you, and then the dream is born. But first, everything that has to be created first is in a state of ibur, and then there's leida. Ibur is the hachana, the preparation. If a fetus would emerge, if an embryo would emerge from the womb right after conception and fertilization, it couldn't be viable, it couldn't survive. Even with a preemie, if it's too premature, Chalila, there's challenges to keep it viable. It has to go through the stages of pregnancy in order to become fully developed, that when it goes out to the real world, it should be able to be sustainable. Sometimes you have a dream and it's too early, and you put it out there, and it gets destroyed because it doesn't have yet the hachana. You don't have the preparation, right? You can't just draft somebody into a military. You need the training. You need the training physically and psychologically. That's called ibur, the time of pregnancy. So the guf goes through ibur, the body of the child goes through, but the neshama goes through ibur. When the neshama is in a state of ibur, it malamdinoise kala Torah kula. What's the point of teaching the neshama the whole Torah? From this, the soul gets the koyach later. That he should be, that she should be able to experience the light of God. The koyach ha'ava v'yira, the ability of love, and all liyos mashcheni. There should be able to be mashcheni. I should be able to be triggered by you. The hainu lefishik mikvar heviyani amalek hadarav. Because once upon a time you already brought me into your chamber, so therefore this resonates with me. So the pasuk is talking about 3 different things. Mashcheni is harusa de la'ela. Adam ki yakriv mikem karban lashem. Arousal from above. Acharecha norutza is harusa de l'sata. It's translating it into the world of the animal soul, which brings not me into the picture, but we into the picture. It's not only me, my godly soul, but we, acharecha norutza. Now the question is, how does a person even have a relationship with all of this? You look at yourself, you say, it's all nice Titus. I don't have no godly soul, I'm not godly, I'm a regular animal. That's what I am. I'm a self-centered beast. That's it, I am. That's why you look in the mirror, I don't have a relationship with all of this. This is a very sensitive, subtle things. So he says, Heviyani hamelech hadarav. It's not the case. This all speaks to you because this is, you know it already from your womb. Heviyani, already in the past. What's the point of teaching the fetus the whole Torah? Like we explained, Shma b'ni musa ravicha va'al titish Torah simach. Because in the womb, what the soul learns in the womb, Heviyani, the king already invited you into his chambers. Which is always based on cheder, chesed, din, and rachamim. All the machloikas of the Tanoim and Amoraim and all of the Shisha Sidra Mishnah, some minds gravitate to chesed, some minds gravitate to din, and some minds gravitate to rachamim. This doesn't mean that their ideas were not objective, their ideas were emotional. But it means that objectivity itself, Seich logic itself is multifaceted, multidimensional. Beis Shammai, the Zohar says, was Midas HaGvura. Beis Hillel was Midas HaChesed. Beis Shammai felt he was right, based on the Cheshbon. Midas HaGvura is a serious Cheshbon in life. Midas HaChesed is a serious Cheshbon in life. So Heviyani HaMelech HaDarav. In the past, the king already brought me into the Cheder. I had the whole Torah. So therefore, this gives the koyach to the neshama that later in life, there should be able to be moshcheni. I should be triggered. It should resonate that the Ohr Hashem, which was already once part of me, should be able to impact me.
Rachamim is you said
Is a mamutza, is an intermediary.
So it's a measured chesed.
Right. Empathy, yeah.
What's a ger supposed to do? What's a ger supposed to do?
A ger. Gershin is gaya katan shenoyla dami. V'hinei. Now, l'chayra you would think, when does this arusa de leila happen? The answer is, I don't know. You sit, and when the lightning hits, There's nothing you can do to facilitate it, because by definition, it's not your initiative. It's God's initiative. It's basically when he opens up the door and he says, here, come in. So l'chayda by definition is harusa de la'ela is a passive experience.
We can't do anything to initiate it, to arouse it.
L'chayda.
Right.
I'm giving an introduction to the next piece. L'chayda. Ostensibly you would think so. Bashkafer and Shaina at first glance. In other words, if it's this harusa de l'sata that precedes this harusa de la'ela, like you spoke before, Yigias Nefesh, Yigias Basar, his Boinanus, Hamakas Hadas, Leiv Nishbar, everything. He discussed his 5-step program. Okay? That's all about your initiative. But if we're talking about Adam Ki Yakriv Mikeh, that there are times, like he says, a person suddenly has a Yisairis, and it goes for a few hours or a few days or a few weeks, and then boom, it's gone. So it's literally like you're in the dark, in a forest in the wilderness, and there's a lightning suddenly. It's raining, and there's one lightning, another lightning, and suddenly everything lights up. You can't facilitate it. You could just wait until it happens. So that's what he continues, that it's not that way. That's what he's going to continue now. The Adam Ki Yakriv, who I de Esa Katerda. To help be mamshich, this is Arusa de La'ela of Adam Ki Yakriv that we were talking about. When a person learns Torah, it's conducive for that. Why? Shehi b'chinas Adam, Ramach Pikudin, Ramach Evorin, V'shasaloises, V'shasagidim, K'may shekasav, B'dibir Amask V'yachel Chesama. V'lachein Aide Esek HaTorah, Nimshach Liyas Ki Yakriv. It says, Adam Ki Yakriv. Adam, he said before, represents Adam HaElyon. The way Hashem Kevayachel encloses himself in a tzir of Adam, of 10 Sefirahs, of Ramach Evorim de Malka, through which he's meyered l'neshamas Yisrael. On Torah it says Zois HaTorah Adam. Torah is the b'china of Adam. There's 248 mitzvahs or 365 mitzvahs essay and 365 loisasa correspond to the Ramach Evorim and the Shasagidim of a person, but they also represent the Ramach Evorim and Shasagidim Kivayachal of Adam HaElyon, of the divine metaphysical persona, of course in a spiritual metaphysical sense. So through learning Torah, which is B'chinas Adam, the person, so to speak, invites Isarusa de La'ela. The person, so to speak, brings forth an Adam Ki Yakriv, because Torah is God's revelation of the B'china of Adam. This is what we say in Ashrei, Karev Hashem l'chol koirav, l'chol asher yikru'u be'emes. Which apparently the pasuk seems to be internally contradictory. Think about it. Karev Hashem l'chol koirav. Hashem is close to all those who call him. Anybody who calls him. Then wait, no. L'chol asher yikru'u be'emes. To all those who call him out be'emes. So I know we say this pasuk for quite a few years, and we move on. Somehow nobody gets a migraine from this. But if you think about it, Karev Hashem l'chol koirav. No, not really. L'chol asher yikru'u be'emes. The Baal HaTanya says, now you'll understand, because ein emes el Torah. In other words, Karev Hashem l'chol koirav. Karev, like the word ki yakriv. Hashem is close l'chol koirav, to all who call out to him. What's pshat to all who call out to him? What does it mean, all who call out to him? So he says, L'choil asher yikra'uhu be'emes. All those who call out to him be'emes, which emes is ein emes ela Torah. Reb Mendel, you mind passing? You have that mimer with the explanations. I just saw Psavart there. I just want to look at one thing over there. Okay. How does this answer the contradiction? Karev Hashem l'chol karev l'chol hashekru b'emes. Karev Hashem l'chol karev means he's close to anybody who wants a relationship. The question is, what do you mean anybody who wants a relationship? It's not so simple, because what if a person is submerged in the vanities of the world in Havli Ha'olam? L'chol karev. On this, the second part of the pasuk is an explanation. L'chol hashekru b'emes. Ein emes ala Torah. Because he becomes close to anybody who calls out with truth, and truth is Torah, and anybody could get involved in learning. Esek HaTorah. So therefore, any matzav, any situation a person is, when a person learns, it creates a certain keli for Yisarus, it creates a certain, not keli, it creates a certain Yisarusa de la'ela. It brings Hashem into his life. He's not involved yet in Yisarusa de l'sat, he's not reworking himself, he's just learning. Learning is not about self-work. There's people who learn and are not involved in self-work. But the concept of learning, it brings God, it brings the presence of the Shekhinah in a person's life. So therefore, Karev Hashem l'chol karev. How? What says l'chol karev? You have to make conditions. How much the person is working on himself. That's what he says, because it's l'chol hashekru be'emes. Because anybody who calls him out through Torah, through emes, is Karev Hashem, Adam ki Yakriv. Zois HaTorah Adam. And therefore, ultimately, everyone is capable of this. This is what the Pasuk says in Yeshaya on Torah. It says, Oy yachzik b'ma'uzi yasa shalom li, shalom yasa li. So Chazal say, Beis pa'amim shalom. Shalom is Torah, ain't shalom ala Torah, just like it says, ain't emes ala Torah, ain't shalom ala Torah. V'hainu k'may shekasuv, shalom, shalom l'rachik v'la'karev. What's the 2 times shalom? So we say, it says also in Yeshaya, Shalom, Shalom, L'rachik v'la'karev, Shalom to the one who's far and Shalom to the one who's close. V'kivan shekein, nimshach mizeh gamkin b'chinas Shalom, the l'rachik she'iyeh nasa karev. So the Shalom of Torah is not only for the karev, but also for the rachik. Even the person who's rachik, in other words, there's no Yisarusa de l'sata, but there could be Shalom. Shalom is Torah even for the rachik, that there should be Adam ki Yakriv. V'zeu Adam ki Yakriv mikem. Adam, who will bring you close, v'zehu tishmeru, we say in the Carbon Hatamid. Tzavas b'nei Yisrael v'amarta alem es karboni lach milisha reich nechaychi, tishmeru. What's the tishmeru? Because the Gemara says, tishmeru lahakriv li, shamer zu Mishnah, shaydei nimshach li is lahakriv li. Chazal say shamer represents Mishnah, Chadorov, Torah, Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. So through tishmeru, through Mishnah, you'll have the lahakriv li b'mayadai. Valzen Nemar Agamkin Adam ki Yakriv Dahainu Aidei HaTorah. So that's Adam ki Yakriv. The Yisarusa de l'Eila is not just something that you wait for passively. Esek HaTorah is a form of Yisarusa de l'Eila. It, so to speak, brings the Ohr L'mayla into you, even though there was no Yisarusa de l'Sata. V'zeu, that's the Pshat Daber El Bnei Yisrael V'amarta Aleim Adam ki Yakriv V'aidei Ze Gamkin Achakach Min HaBehema Takrivu V'keniske L'Eila. That's what it says. David al Bnei Yisrael, speak to them. Adam ki Yakriv. Adam ki Yakriv here represents the Esek HaTorah, which through this the Adam becomes close to you, and the Adam brings you close to him, because Yisarusa de l'Eila comes through Esek HaTorah. When a Jew learns Torah, that itself initiates the process of Hashem inviting you into his life. This is the koyach of Torah. And then comes the next step, which is Mina Behema Takrivu. So before we touch Mina Behema Takrivu means Yisarusa de l'sata. Here he's touching for Hu Aidei Kiyam HaMitzvahs. This also connects to the concept of mitzvahs. Shah mitzvah yesh lo sgula protis lahalas as nefesh Shabbat l'kasha bein in Baruch. Every mitzvah has a special quality, different, to do something in the animal soul. The Navi says, Tzedakah lifts up the guy, the nation. So he teaches tzedakah teroimim guy means the Nefesh Shabbat, which is the guy in the person. Tzedakah teroimim guy. Tzedakah lifts up every mitzvah. That's why there's so many mitzvahs. Every mitzvah has a different dent in the animal soul. So till now he spoke about the pasuk in terms of Isarusa Delayla, Isarusa Lasata, Nefesh Alakis, Nefesh Bahamas. Now he adds the next step. Adam ke Yakriv is Torah, which Torah brings forth on Isarusa Delayla. That's the koyach of Torah, and every Jew is connected to that. Heviani Amelech Hadar of Malamde Noisekala Torah Kula, and since Malamde Noisekala Torah Kula, so therefore every Jew has within him the whole Torah, which is the power of Isarusa Delayla. When a Jew learns Torah, it brings forth a light from above, and then the second part is Mina Behema, Mina Bokim, Mina Tzoyin, which also represents Kiyum HaMitzvahs, through which we make a dent in our animal soul, every mitzvah in its own way. A person could learn a whole day. They give tzedakah, they impact their animal soul in a way that learning won't impact, because the Nefesh Shabbat understands what a checkbook looks like. A sugi in Torah lav dafke, but the checkbook it understands. The same is true with all other mitzvahs. Whether it's matzah or shofar or tefillin, every mitzvah in its own way.
If we do it through Torah mitzvahs, then we do it Sarisa Lasata.
Oh, so the Sarisa Lasata of Torah is not the Sarisa Lasata before. It's a whole different. Sarisa Lasata before is a person works on self-transformation. That's why it's different. Esek HaTorah you can't call it Sarisa Lasata. Esek HaTorah means a Yid learns. He learns Torah. That has a tremendous koyach. Why? Because when a person learns Torah, what that does is, he says, Adam ke Yakriv. It creates kevayachal in Isarusa Delayla. By definition, it seems like a contradiction. You can't create Isarusa Delayla, Hashem has to create. So it's not that you create it, you generate it. It triggers. When a Jew learns Torah, what happens is, it's mamshich the Isarusa Delayla. The next step is, you could feel the presence of Hashem in your life.
In a sense, it's vicarious to the question, because let's say I don't have the power to discipline myself. I just push it, I'm not there yet. So it's a shortcut. If I learn Torah, which doesn't require that self-discipline,
right,
that'll spark this Isarusa Leil, and that'll really get the fire going, and then I'll be ready.
That can bring the fire going, yeah.
When do you need Igiyas Nafsha and the Torah?
That's the derech of Isarusa Lasata before Isarusa Leil. That's Isarusa Lasata that precedes Isarusa Leil with his Igiyas HaNefesh, and that brings Isarusa Leil as a response. That's the Reich Nichoichi afterwards. But here we're talking about Adam ke Yaakov, which is Harusa de Leila without his Harusa de Lasata. Says it doesn't just mean you wait and then when it happens, Esek HaTorah helps to be mamshich his Harusa de Leila.
Can you say Matan Torah?
Was.
So somebody starts his journey, how does it go? Right?
There's no one journey. There's different journeys. He's just bavodening, that Esek HaTorah is mamshich his Harusa de Leila.
Can you say Matan Torah with Rusa De'ela, which Hashem gave?
That's going to be the next step now, how it works in the Yom Tov. That's going to be the last shtickle here, let's see.
What he says, and Jews in Russia to have a Torah, so it's a serious Nefesh brought, they had to get the Torah.
Listen, every generation has his journey, every person has his journey. They learned Torah over there, it was just with Mesiras Nefesh. They had Torah, it was just with Mesiras Nefesh.
So all of us right now, on some level, are experiencing a source of the learning Torah.
Torah is, you could comment, Torah is not a source of the Leila. Through Esek HaTorah, your mamshich is, source of the Leila is a source from Hashem. I can't replace that. It's literally like he says, a person feels a ruach tara. There's a hisoirus that comes into them for Avodas Hashem. But Esek HaTorah is conducive to generate that response from Hashem.
It's not automatic.
It's like a
Sometimes not. He's not saying there can't be. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes it happens. A person suddenly feels a wind of inspiration. They don't know from where.
when you learn it,
But he's moisiv. This is why that Adam ke Yakriv is also through Torah.
so when you learn it creates the environment.
It creates an environment in the soul and the mind. Yeah. I mean, you see this. You see it.
Yeah, of course.
It's not.
See it or feel it?
Both. With your mind's eye.
You feel it. Some people see it. Some people understand it. Some people neither.
Experience, whatever way you...
V'hinei al pi kol anal, according to all of this, yuvan gamkin inyan Pesach is Sefirah. According to all of this, we have a hashkaf on the concept of Pesach versus Sefirah Ha'omer, followed by Shavuos. What is the significance of this time of the calendar, this time in the Jewish calendar? So he says, if you think about it, it's this pasuk of Vayikra, which is why Parshas Vayikra is of course read during the season of Pesach. Ki the Pesach hu isarusa de la'ela la'oirid isarusa de l'sat. What happens on Pesach? Pesach represents this energy, isarusa de la'ela, an arousal from above with one purpose: to trigger, to inspire an arousal from below. V'isarusa de la'ela la'oirid haratzui b'nefesh Shabbat. However, the isarusa de la'ela, like all the isarusa de la'elas, what does it do? It arouses the ratzoi. Ratzoi again is from the word rotz. Hachayos ratzoi v'shoiv, it says in Yecheskel. It's ma'oirer, the ratzoi, the yearning in the godly soul. Pesach speaks to one neshama. Avol, the challenge is hanefesh habahamis lo nishabcha adaya. The animal soul has not been transformed or affected. V'lachei nemar ki borach ha'am. You have 5 words. Lachei nemar ki borach ha'am. And that's why it says by the exodus of Egypt, the nation ran. Like he explains in the Tanya, which is called Sefer Shel Beinim, the book of the possible man, the end of chapter 31. What's the vart here? It's a very heavy vart. It says in Parshas B'Shalach, Vayhi B'Shalach Parayas Ha'am. He sends them. In the middle of the night he woke up and he called Moshe and Aaron and he said, Kumu tzu'u mitoich ami, out of here. After, of course, the deaths of the firstborn, Makas Pcheres. Suddenly, in B'Shalach, it says, Vayugad Melech Mitzrayim. They told the king, Ki vorach ha'am. The nation escaped. Really, the nation escaped? You threw them out. He said, go, take everything and go. You threw them out. What do you mean escape? That's called escaping. It's called escaping. Not only was it with permission, it was with the greatest sense of urgency on behalf of the king. I'll go to Shaila. No, what's Kibaracham? So Rashi answers the question. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, and I'll explain it. If you look, we sometimes misread the story. If you look at all the conversations between Moshe and Parai, never once did he tell the king, we want to go and not come back. We want to go for good. He always says the same thing. We just want a 3-day holiday. And the Rasha Merusha wouldn't even allow that. The 10 Makkahs didn't come because he didn't allow the Jews to leave. He didn't allow the Jews a 3-day vacation, holiday. Even that he didn't agree for. Moshe never said, we're leaving, we have another homeland, we're never coming back. He never even said it. At the end, he still didn't say it. When Pari said leave, what did he mean? He says, leave kasher di barta. Kumutsu kasher di barta. What's kasher di barta? For 3 days. Now suddenly 3 days passed, they didn't come back. Oh, Baracham, now they ran away. That's why it says, Ki Baracham, he never gave permission for this. Frag the Balatanya in Tanya, he says, I don't understand. What's the point? Why couldn't Moshe tell him the truth? Pare, goodbye Charlie, it was nice knowing you. We're leaving, we're never coming back. What would Pare say? Mimanavshach. For 3 days, Pare didn't allow anything. Pare on his own didn't allow even 3 days. The only reason he allowed now 3 days is why? Because Makas Pcheres. So if Moshe would have said, Pare, we're leaving for good, what would he say? Oh no, that not. Makas Pcheres devastated him to the point that he gave up. V'haraya, till now he was strong even about 3 days, and now he forfeited. So Moshe could have said the truth. What's the truth? The truth is, we're going forever. We're going for good. Moshe Kavayachal deceived Pare. He deceived him. That's why it says they fled. What's the Havana? So the Alter Rebbe says you have to understand these things in an edel way. We look at everything externally and then internally. You have to go the other way. We look at it, Moshe deceived Pare because he told him 3 days and he could have said the whole truth. What was the point? The emes is the other way around. Yitzias Mitzrayim had to happen through deception. It had to happen through people running away. It had to happen that way. The question is, how do you run away when Pare gives you permission? So you have to come up with an idea of how to deceive somebody who's letting you do it. So what do? You say it's 3 days. It doesn't start with 3 days. It starts with kibarach. There had to be bricha. They had to run from Egypt. They couldn't walk from Egypt. They had to run. They had to escape. There had to be a component of escaping. How do you escape when you're leaving with permission and everybody wants you to leave and they're telling you go and we're happy you go and we're not keeping you here? You're not escaping. You're not a slave escaping. You're a free man. The pshat is, I create a situation where you don't know what I want. If you don't know what I want, so then it's called escaping. So now the question becomes much bigger. Why do you need to go do Yitzias Mitzrayim Kivaracham? The answer is because it's the Sarusa de La'ela and the animal soul wasn't transformed yet. The Hainu, what does this mean? It means Pashat. They were escaping from Parai because Parai existed inside of them. You could take the Jew out of Mitzrayim, but you can't always take Mitzrayim out of the Jew. You could take a Jew out of exile, but you can't always take exile out of the Jew. Or as they say, you could take the Jew out of Russia, but you can't always take Russia or communism out of the Jew, out of the person. Some things remain inside of me. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is inside. So I can get permission from the enemy outside, but the enemy inside doesn't give permission. He holds me back. I left Parai, but Parai didn't leave me. I left Mitzrayim, but Mitzrayim didn't leave me. There's a part of me that says, I belong in Egypt. I'm a slave. I'm an addict. I belong in the world of restrictions. There's a part of me that says it. I could run away from today till tomorrow from Parai, but Parai didn't run away from me. I ran away from him. He's still inside of me. So now what do you have to do? This kivaracham, there's an element of escaping. Who am I escaping? I'm escaping the voice inside of me that holds me back and tells me you belong in Egypt. And that's why you'll see for the next 40 years, at every crisis, the Jews have the same message. Let's just go back. Let's just go back. Go back to where? Go back to the place that they threw your children into a river and put them into walls and oppressed you. Let's just go back. The familiar enemy is better than the unfamiliar enemy. At least over there, I know what to expect. It's basically every person in recovery. Every person in recovery has this. You know what life was like. You destroyed yourself, you destroyed your family, you destroyed your relationships, you destroyed your soul. You were miserable, you were dependent on something every 5 seconds, every 5.5 seconds. But you know what? It's familiar. And I don't really deserve better. So the para in me, the Mitzrayim in me brings me back there. The only way to go out of that is kivarach ha'am. You're always escaping. I can't just walk slowly and say, oh, this is a wonderful experience of redemption. There's a voice in me that says no, and I have to run from it. I have to run from it. That's Pesach. And that's Yitzias Mitzrayim. But there's a tremendous message, and it's still called redemption. There's a voice in you that disagrees with the redemption. That's fine. That's fine. There could be a voice that says, you don't deserve to be redeemed. You belong in slavery. Okay. I hear what you're saying. Bruchim Abayim, thank you for your opinion, Parai. We'll bring it up to the board. But the steering wheel I'm not going to give you. So the Yitzias Mitzrayim, he says, the Nefesh Shabbat, in Avodah, what does it mean? The Nefesh Shabbat wasn't transformed. Since it wasn't transformed, they had to be Kibbaracha. They had to run. Who were they running from? They were running from the Parai that still existed. And if they would not run, then they would get stuck. They would stay in Mitzrayim. There's an element where I have to say, I'm running away from this because it's chasing me. Somebody is chasing me. Somebody is saying you don't deserve to be free. This is not for you. You belong back in Mitzrayim. Physically, psychologically, emotionally, that's where you belong.
But that's not yet transforming you.
Right.
That's recognition that you have.
Yes. Because Pesach is a Sarusa de La'ela. And back to, we're not talking a Sur Meirah, it could be even a Say Tov. But back to the shitta of this Maimer that's been explained. That is Sarusa de La'ela has nothing to do with transformation. Even though we would love to feel that way, but it's not. Sarusa de La'ela just means you're riding a high, you're on a high. But there's a you that's completely not on the high. And when you're going to land, you're going to hurt your a certain part of yourself. Because you're going to land very, very hard. So therefore, even in the Giluyim of Pesach, which are tremendous revelations, there's an element of varacham. You have to run. Somebody's chasing you. You should know that somebody's chasing you.
It's not Sefirah.
It's also surmeira, but it's not here negaya surmeira say toiv. It's the attitude that there's somebody chasing you, and it's fine. There's somebody chasing you, and you have to run. But you don't go back because somebody's chasing you. Just because somebody's saying, "Come back, come back, come back," you don't have to listen. As long as you can identify that it's Paroi who's saying it, that's it. If you know that it's Paroi, you're safe. The tragedy is not that Paroi is chasing you. The tragedy is that you think that you are chasing you. You think that Paroi is the voice of righteousness. It's the voice of sanity. It's the voice in you that says you belong in the world of addiction and depression and despair. That's where you belong. Because you belong in slavery, that voice is worshipped. So, ask.
It's a little more nuanced, because until now, Hisarusa Leila means the Rebbeinu Shalom reaches out to you, and we hope that you'll respond. You should respond. Your imperative is to respond. Here it's stronger. It's saying that Hisarusa Leila is sending you a message. You're running. It's a stronger Hisarusa, and that the motivator is built in. You're running. It's telling you to actually respond.
Yeah. So we have in the Jewish calendar, we have the season of Pesach, followed by the season of Sefirah Ha'omer, followed by the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Based on the whole discussion of this Maimer, in the Pasuk in the beginning of Vayikra, Adam ki Yakriv, mikem karban l'Hashem, min ha-behema, min ha-bakar, min ha-tzoyin, takrivu es karbanchem. The Balatanya concludes the last chapter, the last paragraph of the Maimer, that this all explains the structure of Pesach followed by Sefirah Ha'omer. Pesach is the time of Isarusa de La'ela. Pesach is the time that the Jewish people were set free. But what does it mean they were set free? It doesn't mean that their animal souls were necessarily transformed and metamorphosized. Just like we explained, that the unique quality of Isarusa de La'ela is it's a gift from above. It's a gift that sets you free. It's a gift that lifts you up. But it's a force outside of you that came into you and lifted you up. And therefore it speaks to that part of you that is responsive to that call, to that force. In other words, the Nefesh Elikis. So the Gilui of Pesach was an extraordinary Gilui. What do we say in the Haggadah? Nigla alei lahispik b'tzekas shlavesenu lahachmitz. Very rich words. The dough could not become chametz until Hashem sadnish to spay it. It didn't manage to become chametz until HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself reveals himself and liberates himself. What's the connection? Hashem reveals himself. It couldn't get chametz. Of course, the meaning is not just physical. The meaning, on a literal level, it means that they were in a rush to leave. On a spiritual level, we learned last year the Maimer Sheishes Yomim Toichel Matzos in the Likkutei Torah. The Balatanya explains it means something else. Chametz represents the ego. Chametz represents self-inflation. Chametz represents pompousness. Chametz represents ultimate insecurity. You didn't have time. You couldn't become chametz, but not because you worked yourself through. The revelation was so powerful that they couldn't resist it. They couldn't resist the love. They couldn't resist the enlightenment. They couldn't resist the light that they experienced in their soul. So at that moment, if you looked at them, they looked transformed, but they weren't transformed. They were transformed momentarily because of the Nigla Alei Malach Malchem Lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was such an Isarusa de La'ela that it ultimately triggered and it aroused the Nefesh Elikis and it created a Rotzi, a yearning. Let's get out of Mitzrayim. And there are moments in a person's life that way, that you have some type of Nigla Aleim, some type of Gilui, which says, I'm out of this place. That's it, I'm done. My years in Egypt are finita, nada, no more. It seems very promising. It seems transformative, but it's not transformative. It's the preparation for transformation. It's the prerequisite for transformation. It's necessary, because if you don't have it, you don't have what to work with. It's a gift, but it's a gift. And gifts you have to cherish, because they don't last forever. To make them yours, that's a separate avodah. Lo hispik b'tzekas lavesenu. And that's the words lo hispik. Lo hispik means it's not that there's no chametz. There is chametz. Lo hispik. It just, I didn't get to it. In other words, if it gets to it, it's going to get chametz. It's not that there's no chametz. There is chametz. It's just lo hispik. You didn't manage to get to it. And you see this also in halacha. And this is where everything becomes connected very interestingly. And it's interesting, the Abter Rav in Oyev Yisrael says this in his Sefer, the Abter Rav on Pesach. And the Chassam Sofer also says it in the Chassam Sofer's Oisius. He speaks in, he speaks of Oisius of Chassam Sofer, he speaks in Oisius of the Abter Rav, which was more Chassidish Oisius. But they both say a similar word. The Mishnah, the Gemara says in Pesachim, I think it's Daf Lamed Hey, Taka the Pasuk we just learned about. It says in Parshas Vayikra, Lo Soichel Olav Chametz Shivasem Teichel Olav Matzos. So the Gemara says that the only matzah with which you could fulfill your obligation is matzah that is capable of becoming chametz. For example, the Gemara asks a question: why don't we tell people to make matzah out of millet, out of doichen, or out of rice, oiris? Okay. Before the gzeira on the kidneys. Yeah? Let's say the Sefirah, today the Sefirah. What's the worst chash chametz on Pesach? Anybody knows? What's the worst thing that you have to be careful from on Pesach? Matzah. The worst thing we do on Pesach is matzah. The worst, not gebrok. Gebrok is another issue. I'm not talking gebrok. I'm talking much more serious than gebrok. I'm talking about matzah, even without gebrok. Matzah is the worst potential for chametz. Eating bananas, it's hard to find chametz in a banana.
It's only if it gets wet.
No, but I'm saying the whole process. Somewhere along the line, from harvesting, right? Matzah is the most fertile to become chametz. Why don't you take, the Gemara says, take oiris, take rice, take millet, grind it, take flour. There's something called rice bread. You ever ate rice bread? Millet bread. People eat it all the time. It's officially healthy.
Officially.
No, I mean, I don't know. It says on it, in the cases of Kiddush Levana, healthy, no heart attacks, no cancer, no strokes, you live forever, like Adam Arishon. You know what they write on the bags? On potato chips it also says, you live forever, all the fibers you need, everything you need. Almost no sugar.
Kale bread.
Kale bread, yeah. So take the rice, grind it into flour, knead it with water, and bake it in an oven. You know why? Poshet, the enzymes that create chametz don't exist. Even Rashi says, even if it inflates a whole day, ein ze chametz ela sirchain. It's not leaven, it's decadence. It's not chametz. It's the best thing. You don't have to scream at the women in the matzah bakery, schnell, 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 hollering and screaming at the poor women. Yeah, you can leave the matzah, the water, the dough for an hour. It doesn't rise. And for the Gemara, you can't. You know why? Because it says, "Lo yiseichel of chametz shivasem uteichel of matzahs." Only matzah sheyechoyla love l'dei chimutz yotzim ba yedei chayvus achilas matzah. Matzah she'ein yechoyla love l'dei chimutz ein yotzim ba yedei achilas matzah. Only matzah that has the potential to become chametz, you could fulfill the mitzvah with. If it's matzah that can become chametz, you can't fulfill the mitzvah with it. What's the havonah? Samad nezach l'chayda fakert. But now we understand. Because that's the whole avodah of Pesach. The avodah of Pesach is not transformation. The avodah of Pesach is not to say, since I'm not a transformed person, therefore there's no exodus by me. After I go to therapy for 49 years, and I become healthy, and I get rid of every skeleton, and every point of darkness, and every demon, and every ghost, finally I'll be able to say, free at last, free at last. The only problem is you may wait till 99 for that. So the avodah of Pesach is no. Ki barach ha'am. They had to run away. Who did they have to run away from? Not Paroi. Paroi would have given them permission. They had to run away because somebody was chasing them. Why? Because there was an inner voice that was chasing them. There was an inner voice that says, you're not free, come back. And nonetheless, you could still achieve freedom in that state. Why? Because freedom does not depend, the first stage of freedom does not depend on complete transformation. It depends on awareness. Before transformation, there's awareness. Awareness means as long as I can identify, this is my godly soul, this is my animal soul, you're good to go. The animal soul, could make you meshuga and put in voices that tell you you're in Egypt and you're forever in Egypt and you belong in Egypt and you're mine and you belong to me and you're the worst of the worst and you're the lowest of the low and it's hopeless and everything is hopeless in your life and your relationships are hopeless and your relationship with your children is hopeless, relationship with your spouse is hopeless, relationship with yourself is hopeless. Okay. So you look at Parai and you say, thank you for your message, and I'm looking forward for you to come back in 45 minutes for an update. And indeed he'll come back probably 40 minutes later, because he's always Mekayim Zizim Magdim El Mitzvahs. That's the avoid of Kibbur Cham. So if the matzah can't become chametz, you can't be yotze the mitzvah of matzah. It's matzah that's capable of becoming chametz. And that's where you're yotze the mitzvah of Pesach. The mitzvah of Pesach is not that you discover a point in your life that is chametz free, immune to chametz. Immune to chametz from the word in the terms of chametz as leaven and vinegar, chametz and sourness and all the good things about chametz. It's you're not immune to it. Ushmartem es hamatzos. What's that? Ushmartem es hamatzos? Why do you have to guard the matzos? Because if you don't stand guard, it's going to be chametz. In other words, it's the avodah in life where you have to watch, you have to preserve your freedom, you have to guard it. Because if you don't guard it, if you put down your guard for a moment, it's done. Where do I sound better? Ushmartem es hamatzos. You have to guard the matzah. Why do you have to guard it? Kivaracham. Because if you're not running, somebody's going to schlep you back. There's an inner force that's going to schlep you back. And that's dafka you do the mitzvah. And if you say, I managed to reach the matzah that is immune to chametz, you actually can't do the mitzvah. The mitzvah of Pesach is the one that celebrates the fact of freedom amidst turmoil. Freedom amidst the fact that a person may have other voices in them. And nonetheless, they could run away. It says, La'asid lavai, loy b'chipazin telechu, loy b'menusa telechem, b'shuva v'nachas. You won't run. Because it's going to be a moment of transformation. You don't have to run. And and you cannot, the worst thing is to legitimize the first geula and say it's not geula. Because I'm running. It's not, it's still geula. The fact that you could run, and the fact that you can identify and say, this is Pare, and I'm going to run from him, that's deep geula. Don't underestimate that. Geula doesn't mean that everything is transformed. Geula means that I can identify what is toxic and what is wholesome. I can identify different parts in me and I can choose which one I want to sit at the steering wheel and run my life. Kibbaracha. That's why only matzah sheyechayla lava l'dei chimutz. That's the matzah that you could be yotze. Lo hispik lahachmetz. It would have become chametz. There was nigla le'em malach malcham lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A beautiful mind. There was a scientist by the name of John Nash.
You're a big anti-Semite, by the way.
Okay.
I had a few up and back emails with him.
Really? Personal?
Yeah.
Okay. He won the Nobel Prize for mathematics, economics, mathematics. A brilliant, brilliant man. Princeton University professor. Suffered tragically from serious schizophrenia. The schizophrenia was horrible, to the point that he destroyed his career. And he was a brilliant, brilliant man, destroyed his career. He decided that the communists are pursuing him. And he heard voices, he saw people. He literally, the communists were taking over America and were taking over his life. And he lived that way, and it destroyed his career. And his wife gets a lot of credit because she trusted him, she didn't leave him. And it was hell, literally living hell for her, but she empowered him, she got him back into the university, and she helped him rehabilitate his life. So there's a book about his life, film about his life. So there's a scene. John Nash, after years and years with medication and therapy and tremendous work and a lot of anguish, finally he gets back at university, he starts teaching again, and he produces his mathematical work that gives him the Nobel Prize. At the ceremony, he gives a speech. And the speech, he asks a question that he wondered his whole life: what is the ultimate summation of all mathematical equations? What's the sachakal of everything? And he says, looking at his wife, that he realized after a lifelong search that it's love. That's the summation of all mathematical equations. And he thanks his wife for giving him the empowerment and security and the trust and the love that he should be able to reach where he is this day, knowing all of his emotional and mental setbacks and challenges. And the crowd applauds and applauds and applauds. And he leaves the beautiful auditorium, the palace in Sweden. Where is it done? In Sweden, yeah? In the hallway, this is a it really captures the moment. Going out, it's literally, he's at the pinnacle of his career. He reached his crescendo, he reached his zenith. And going out, he's attacked by the schizophrenia. All the images that haunted him his whole life come right into his mind, right there. And it's so sad that after everything's said and done, it's all there. And literally, he's not the same person anymore. Because he's dominated by literally another personality, like a dibuk. He's overwhelmed literally by a dibuk. He's not there anymore. He's in a different place, and it's almost he has no control. His wife, who's walking with him and really celebrating this tremendous victory of her husband, knew her husband well enough, like many of our wives do, to know when he's present emotionally and when he's not present emotionally. And she looked at her husband and she knew that something happened. She knew something. She didn't know what, but she knew something happened. So she looks at him and she says, "Is everything all right?" No, nothing was all right. He was completely overwhelmed by these schizophrenic visions. Nothing was all right. And you could almost experience the struggle, the anguish in his soul and his brain. And he looks at his wife and he's being taken and hijacked by his own mental state. And he looks at his wife and he says, "Yes, everything is perfect. Everything is perfect." And they walk out together. What happens at that moment is he doesn't get rid of them, but he has the knowledge and the courage to be able to identify what is the demon and what is the human being. To be able to say, yes, everything is all right, everything is perfect. In other words, not to allow himself to be defined by those forces, but rather to give himself the luxury that he defines the forces, rather than the forces defining him. The challenge is not that you have those voices. I mean, it's quite a challenge. But that doesn't spell slavery. What spells slavery is when they define me, rather than when I define them. That's Ohr Chaim. Ohr Chaim means there is para in me, there is Mitzrayim in me chasing me. Wherever I go, it's there. Because it's inside of me, it's not outside of me. If it's outside of me, I can get rid of it. If it's inside of me, I can't get rid of it. But the Chiddush of Yitzias Mitzrayim is not transformation. The Chiddush is the ability to be able to look and say, I'm all right. I'm perfect. I define it. It doesn't define me. I put it into context. What's the context I put it in? The context I put it in is, yes, part of my mission in life is to struggle with these voices and to dismiss them constantly. To be able to say, you are not me, you will not define my life, you will not define my future. In fact, your purpose is here in order to stimulate me. You are here to bring out the best in me. You are here to let me reach my ultimate potential. It's not an easy path to reach my ultimate potential, but that's the path. If that's the path, you are really my friend, you're not my enemy. But as long as I define you, you don't define me. Ohr Chaim. It's a moment, it's a very emotional moment of a human triumph. After a lifelong of struggle, you don't always get rid of it, but you manage to identify, quarantine, and make a choice. He was killed with his wife in a car accident, I think 2 years ago, on the New Jersey Turnpike. He went to Europe to get a reward. He came back home, and I think on the taxi going home, they were both killed. You wanted to ask something? Okay. That's the Ohr Chaim of Yitzias Mitzrayim. But you can't get disappointed if the chametz comes back, because it was nigla aleim. It was a tremendous isarusa de la'ela that they had. That's the night of the Seder, tremendous isarusa de la'ela. But there was no transformation yet. So now you come to the next stage.
Before you told the story about Nash, you said something about it's not lo hispik. It's not that there's no chametz. It's that you didn't get to it.
You didn't lo hispik.
I didn't get that point.
Yeah, in other words, just like literally, they were rushed, so therefore there was no chametz. It's not that essentially there was no potential for chametz. There was a potential for chametz.
So there's Indians davening fast, so there's no chametz.
Okay, das ist doch gewesen, der alte Machloikes Bells mit Chabad. No, there was a famous argument. In Bells, they davened very, very fast. They said that you daven fast, there's no machshav azar. So it was once a Bells Achos, he was speaking, the Baal Tanya wanted to daven long. So he once said, if you're on a wagon, and you go slow, so then all the shkotzim can as a charuf chappen off in wagon. Everybody could come. If you go fast, nobody could get on. So he said, "Bamedvarim amorim, if he's not on already." What if he's on already? Then if you go fast, he just stays on. You have to go slow and throw him off. So he says, depends where you are. If the guy is not on, then go very fast. Problem is, the guy is on already. He's inside. You know what I mean? Somebody once put on a sign in shul. In most shul says, Asr ladab b'shas tefillah. Somebody once put up a sign, Asr l'spal b'shas dibur. You know?
I just want to ask why we have these two psukim. We had one pasuk which was commanded us to eat Korban Pesach. Was it Amatzav Mara Yachlu?
Amatzav Mara Yachlu.
That was before Yetzias Mitzrayim.
No.
That was before there was no excuse that your dough. We didn't have time. We had plenty of time to make chametz if you wanted to. We were just commanded not to eat chametz. And then you have the other pasuk that says, "Oh, we eat matzah because we didn't have time," which is not true. We had plenty of time. We were just commanded. So how do you?
Good question.
Those two? So
that was the maimah we learned last year. It's a long. There's two inyanim of matzah. It's two levels of matzah. Good question. Very good question.
I think there's one level.
For chatzos after chatzos.
It's got to be one.
Huh?
It's got to be one.
There's two experiences.
Maybe.
There's two experiences. Okay. So he says that's Adam ki Yakriv mikem. What's Adam ki Yakriv mikem? Kamoisha Kosov. The last paragraph. Vihine. You see page Dav Gimel. Amid Aleph, page 5. Ukamoisha Kosov. Kol doidi. Hine zeba medalag alaharim. It says by Pesach, the doidi is leaping over mountains. Shubeschus haTorah shenikra har kamoisha Kosov. Yisu harim shalom la'am, and shalom is Torah. So, but we said that Torah creates the Adam ki Yakriv mikem. That's medalig alaharim. He leaps over the mountains. When you leap over something, it means the thing is there. You just jump over it. You imagine you can jump over it. It doesn't have to become something that consumes you. You know, you could let it go. You just leap it. You leap over it. You skip it. Lachein achar kach tekefu miyad b'yom sheni. That's why, based on this whole maimah, what did he say? When you have a gift, what should you do right away? Mina behema. Make sure you go to your Nefesh Shabbat. Don't get swept up, because you could fall very hard without anything left. So take it from Miyad. The first day of Pesach, celebrate. Celebrate the freedom. But take it from Miyad. The second day, right away, it's time for Sefirah. What's Sefirah? You go to the field and you harvest barley, not wheat. Usually all the meal offerings in the Beis HaMikdash, all the menachos were brought from chitim, wheat. The Gemara says in Pesachim Dav Gimel, chitim is Michael Adam, sa'arim is Michael Behema. Wheat is human food, barley is animal fodder. Today everybody's into barley. Could be two reasons. Either people became behemoths, or the behemoths became people. That depends on your interpretation. One of the two. Today everybody's into barley. You're not allowed to even eat wheat. A self-respecting person, chas v'shalom, to touch wheat, only barley. But Amal, they used to say, Sa'arim is Michael Behema. So you take the barley, you harvest the barley, you grind it into flour. Part of the flour you burn on the Mizbeach. The rest of it is baked into matzah and eaten by the Kohen. This was called the Korban Moment. When was it done? The second day of Pesach. When Machar is Shabbos, Tazayin Nisan in the morning. They used to harvest it the night before. Monsey, the first night of Pesach, to the point that it's Doicha Shabbos. You're allowed to harvest it on Shabbos. And they will Yakriv it to Zionis, and then that's when we start counting the Omer. He says, why? Liyos birur Nefesh Shabbat. The moment you have Adam ki Yakriv mikem, which is Pesach, the second day immediately, Takrivu mina behema. You bring the Omer. The carbon Omer is the carbon of Sa'arim of Michael Behema, which represents working with your animal soul. Yizbiru Nefesh Shabbat Usfira Sa'arim. That's the idea of counting the Omer. Usfartem lachem. Pchines biru rezayin midas the Nefesh Shabbat. As he explained in another Maimah, Sfartem comes from the word sapir. sapphire stone, Evan Sapir, Usfartem Lachem. You want to take the midas of your animal soul and make them shine, make them bright, make them luminescent. It's the birur, it's the refinement of the 7 emotions of the Nefesh Shabbat. That's why it's 7 weeks. Each week you represents, you deal with another emotion, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus. That's the avoid of Mina Behema, the Sarusa de Lasata that follows the Sarusa de Leila. V'hu ke'inyin Mina Behema, Mina Bakar Takrivu, the Hainu Sarusa de Lasata. That's the second half of the Pasuk. This is what the Ramban, the famous Ramban, he says in Shir Hashirim, it says, Hishbati eschem benois Yerushalayim, im ta'iru, v'im ta'iru es ha'ava, ad shetechpatz. So the Ramban says, sometimes there's a tremendous isoirus of ava, tremendous arousal of love, ad shetechpatz. You have to bring it down into a chayfetz. You have to objectify from the word object. You have to objectify, concretize, consolidate the ava, ad shetechpatz. You have to bring it into a chayfetz. Same idea. If the ava is going to remain just love, it will fade away into oblivion. So right after the Sarusa D'Leil of the first day of Pesach, you come to the second day of Pesach, take it from miyad, but you see, you don't do the karbonaim the first day. Why don't you do the karbonaim the first day? You do it right away the second day, because the first day is Sarusa D'Leil. The first day there's an inspiration. You don't right away ruin it and say, oh, but my animal. In other words, you don't have to destroy the energy. The energy is an amazing energy. But B'Yom HaSheni, the second day, you right away have to go to the Nefesh Shabbat. Now you have the third stage, Shavuos. Then you come to Shavuos. After 7 weeks, you come to Matan Torah. What's Matan Torah? Hu b'chinas is Sarusa de La'ela, sha'achar is Sarusa de L'sat. Now you come to another Isarusa de Leila, the one that follows Isarusa de L'sat. You have Isarusa de Leila that precedes Isarusa de L'sat. That's Pesach. You have Isarusa de L'sat that follows Isarusa de Leila. That's Sefirah Sa'imer. That's Mina Behema. That's the Avodah with the Nefesh Shabbat. You have Shavuos, Matan Torah, the gift of Torah. That's the Isarusa de Leila that follows the work of Isarusa de L'sat. Oh, so we're going to see the difference. You're asking a good question. His galus ritzoyne v'chachmase lamata. What is Matan Torah? Where Hashem reveals His wisdom and His will, His rotzen and His chachma through Torah down here below. Ki hine b'chinas ki yakriv v'takrivu zo halom il mata lamayla. It's completely different than Adam ki yakriv and takrivu. Why? Adam ki yakriv and takrivu, the two halves of the psukim. Adam ki yakriv is the first half, Isarusa de Leila. Min abheim, min abakim, min takrivu is the second half. That's all ha'alam min mata lamayla. That's all to bring up the mata, the lower state, and elevate it to a higher state. Aval b'matan Torah ksiv, vayered Hashem al har Sinai, liyas hamshacha lamata. Matan Torah is already something else. It's vayered Hashem. Hashem comes down on har Sinai. The focus is not ha'alam min mata lamayla. The focus is hamshacha from higher lamata to lower. Meaning, the Sarusa de La'el in the beginning has one objective. The objective is to trigger your own work, to arouse you, to make you curious, to make you inquisitive, to open you up to your work. The Sarusa de La'el before Sarusa de L'sata is agenda-driven. And the agenda is, I want you to make this relationship yours. I know that if I don't reach out to you, we could remain strangers forever. So therefore, I'm opening the door. Pischuli Sharei Tzadek. But the point is, Ovoy, you should come in. I'm lending you the money, like we learned in the Vart of Rabbi Aaron Kaliner. I'm lending you the money that you should invest the money and make your own money. I'm not lending you the money that you should put it on a bank or keep it on your shelf and say, I'm a rich man. I'm lending you money that you should make the money yours. How? Take the money, invest it, and make it yours, that you should be able to look at it and say, I own this money. I didn't borrow this money. So the objective of the first Isarusa de La'el is what? There should be ha'ala milmata l'mayla. It's an invitation. It's a teaser. It's a prerequisite. It's a hachana. It's to give you the inspiration, to explain to you, to enlighten you, to help you realize what is on the other side. What is on the other side? You know, once in a lifetime, a Jew is entitled to feel who he really is, so he can have a paradigm, he can have a backdrop. You need a backdrop of inspiration.
It's a tease.
it could become a tease. It becomes a tease if you don't do anything with it. If you do something with it, it's not a tease. It's the opening.
It's a trailer.
A trailer. It's a preview. It's a preview of what's coming if you take ownership of it. Yeah, if you don't follow with the preview, it remains a teaser. But if you follow up after the preview, then it doesn't. Alle Chassidim verstehen mein Moschel da, oder nicht? Sie verstehen ganz gut. You know, okay, I'll give you a better Moschel. It's like learning Mishnayos without Gemara.
I think they listed the first one.
They understood the first one better? Okay. So that's the word. It's Harusa de Leila is Hachana for Harusa de Lasat. It's Halam al Mata Lamaila.
What's the distinction between a behema and a bakar? Is there distinctions between it?
That he already said earlier. Different types of Nefesh Shabbat. That's the different types. The angry guy, the cool guy, the addict, all the types. Yeah. The Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin, Sheker hachein vehevel hayofi isha yiras Hashem hitishalom. So who's the yiras Hashem? Was Sheker hachein is Moshe, hevel hayofi is Yehoshua, isha yiras Hashem hitishalom. Sanhedrin daf Chav ze Palti ben Layish. It's Palti the son of Layish. It's a new name that emerges. Who was Palti ben Layish? Palti ben Layish was an interesting figure. Palti ben Layish was a man who Shaul married off to his daughter Michal. There was one issue. Michal was already married to David. Shaul believed that the Kiddushin was not a good Kiddushin. The Gemara explains why. Mekadosh b'milva ganza maisa. Shaul felt Michal is not really married to David. So she took her daughter, his daughter, and said, here, Palti ben Layish is my new chasana de bein Nesiya, my new Edom. It's a big Rebbe Shechasana, everybody came, and Michal and Palti were married. Michal disagreed with his father-in-law. He believed that David was right. In other words, that his daughter, his wife, Palti ben Layish, disagreed with Shaul. He believed that she is Mekudesh to David. In other words, he's not allowed to be with her. She's an Eshes Ish. So the Gemara says they were together as husband and wife, but Palti ben Layish never ever touched her. So Sheker Achein ve'Velayfi Isha Yiras Hashem, that's Palti ben Layish, to do this for such a long time. Gemara says, how did he do it? Not cherev beinoy lebeinoh. He took a sword, he put it in the bedroom between the two beds. He said, whoever passes from this side to the other side, yidaka b'cherev, should be stabbed. That's the story. So what does this mean? He took a sword, he put it in the bedroom, and he's saying, if I pass it, I should be stabbed. Who's exactly going to stab him? The shviger? Who's going to stab him? The shver, his wife? Mamanavshach. If they have a taiva, they'll ignore the sword. And if they don't have a taiva, you don't need a sword. What's the sword going to have? They had policemen. It was all their own conviction. It was all based on their own emotions, on their own realization of what's true, what's not true. What's cherev going to help? It's not like they had bodyguards in the bedroom. The cherev was for what? If you don't have a taiva, you don't need a cherev. And if you have a taiva, a sword is not going to help. You could go around it. It's a sword. What's the pshat? The pshat is as follows. This is in Sichis Musaf Rabbi Chaim Shmulevich. I'm just going to say it a little bit in my own oisius. The pshat is as follows. Palti ben Layish and Michal had a moment of clarity. They knew that a relationship between them is wrong. It's promiscuous, it's immoral, it's toxic. It was very clear to them. But they also knew that life takes its course, and when people are exhausted, or people are not sober, or people are not always logical, or in a moment of weakness, different cheshbonis take over and you fall prey. Not cherev, when he takes a sword that represents something. When he had a moment of clarity, he took that moment and he etches that moment into his consciousness, what they used to call a Kodak Moment. You remember the Kodak Moment? You take the picture and you freeze the experience and you put it into the ground and it becomes a cherev. That awareness that you had, that if you're going to go to her bed, it's basically a form of emotional or spiritual death, that should remain etched in your life even when the awareness is gone. So sometimes every person becomes aware of certain truths at certain points in their life. It's obvious, it's clear, there's no debate. You know exactly what's good and what's poisonous. The problem is a day later, you forget, or a day later you have a void and you need it. But that's not the issue. The cheshbon is, the way for a person to rescue himself is, if they could take that moment and not cherev, consolidate it, freeze it, and hold on to it. That when the awareness fades, and when the inspiration is gone, and when the enthusiasm is completely obliterated, the memory should be so strong and say, now I don't feel any of this. But yesterday you knew what was true, and you weren't crazy yesterday. Yes, your taiva is saying today you were crazy, but you know you weren't crazy yesterday. You know yesterday you were lucid. Yesterday you were sober. Yesterday you had eyes. Yesterday you were healthy. So today you're not that, okay. But the memory, it should be sufficient, it will be sufficient enough to be able to hold you back. That's the Na'atz Cherev. So that's what the function of Isarusa D'Leila. The function of Isarusa D'Leila is not stam to throw a lightning at you. It's not just a light bulb moment. It's the ability to build on it. Once you have that clarity, that awareness, now you're good to go. But you're good to go. You have to go. Hala milmata l'mayla. That's why even the Adam ki Yakriv is still milmata l'mayla. It's coming from above, but it's just there to bring you up. Shavuos is something else. Shavuos is Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. Shavuos is a different thing, and it's not Isarusa D'Leila. That's a hachana for Isarusa D'Leila. It's Isarusa D'Leila as a separate gift. What do we mean as a separate gift? Where Hashem, so to speak, shears himself with the Jew for the intimacy, for the sake of intimacy. The relationship for the sake of the relationship itself. You're going to ask a question. That was your question. He said earlier that Adam ki Yakriv also happens through Torah. The hachana, what creates a Isarusa D'Leila is Esek HaTorah, through learning. Because Zois HaTorah Adam. Torah is Adam Ramach Evarim B'Shasa Gidim, and therefore the Adam ki Yakriv happens through Torah. When a Jew learns Torah, he's mamshech Isarusa D'Leila in his life. He's literally mamshech Isarusa D'Leila, and that's why you see in life that people who, even in difficult times, they don't stop learning. There's a certain connection that they hold on to. If they don't stop learning, even though there's no Isarusa D'Leila, they're not working on themselves, they're not feeling anything. There's always yotzim and aklal, because it depends how you learn and why you learn. But nonetheless, generally speaking, Torah keeps people. A blad gemara a day keeps the therapist away. Or I shouldn't say that, because that's not so simple. But it keeps a lot of trouble away, let's put it that way. A person who learns, they remain in a certain safe zone, a certain safe environment. But Yisraeli Mishvuos is also Torah. So what's the difference between the Torah before the Torah after? He says, "Ha'hefresh b'mchinas Esek HaTorah shekoydem haratzoi, dahainu b'chinas Adam ki Yakriv, leb'chinas Esek HaTorah she'acher haratzoi b'nei Nefesh Shabbat." There's a big difference. There's the Torah that precedes the Tzirus D'Lasata. That's the Adam ki Yakriv, the Torah that brings us Tzirus D'Leila. That's one Torah. And then there's the Torah that comes after the Ratzoi, after the birur of the Nefesh Shabbat. That's Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. That's Shavuos. There's a big difference. Hainu shayidei zeh haratzia b'nei Nefesh Shabbat nimshech be'esek HaTorah mebchinas ki loy Adam hu lahamshech misham hamshacha chadash mebchinas Adam. He throws a bomb and finishes the maimer.
Good luck.
The Torah that we spoke about before, remember he said it's all the Isarusa D'Leila is called Adam ki Yakriv. Why is it called Adam ki Yakriv? Why Adam? Because the Isarusa D'Leila comes from God the way he's defined as Adam. How can God inspire me? Why should I be inspired by Hashem? Was hab ich mit dem Eibishter? Why should you be inspired by anybody? We can only be inspired by things that touch us, that move us. If something doesn't move me, I can't get inspired by it. How does God move you? How can God move you? Why should it move you? What moves you about it? That's why it can only come from Adam ki Yakriv. The way the Rebbeinu Shalom, so to speak, defines himself as the core of identity, the core of personality, the engine of your consciousness, the essence of your reality, that can move you because it's who you really are. It's relatable. It's something that I feel my own deepest self-realization, self-expression, self-actualization. Hashem is not Adam. Hashem is loy Adam. Loy Adam. Who says it? Shmuel HaMelech says to Shaul, what does he say? Ki loy Adam hu lihi nochem, right? Ki loy Adam hu, the Haftarah of Parshas Zachar. Netzach Yisrael lo yeshakev lo yechazev ki loy Adam hu. So, Kedarkei, all the psukim work together. There's Adam. Yecheskel sees Mara Adam. Shmuel says loy Adam, he's not Adam. What is it? Hashem himself is not Adam, like we learned many times, beyond midas, beyond seichel, beyond identity, beyond personality, beyond ruchnis, beyond gashmis, like we spoke about akudim and lechem mishnah. There's that which is completely beyond spheres, beyond koiches. Ki loy Adam. But the sarusa de leila always comes from Adam ki Yakriv. Why? Because it's about being meir, it's about being oir, neshamas, Yisrael, and oilamus. So that's the Adam ki Yakriv. So even the Torah that you're learning in order to get this Arusa de La'ela, which Torah is it? It's Zoysa Torah Adam. It's the Torah of Ramach Pikudim, it's the Torah of Ramach Evarim, it's the Torah of Shasal Loisis, it's the Torah of Adam. It's the Koil Asher Yikru'uhu Be'emes, Korav Hashem L'chol Korav. Then there's the Torah of Shavuos. The Torah of Shavuos, Vayed Hashem Al Har Sinai, that's the Torah of Loy Adam. It's a different Torah. There's the Eisek Torah of Pesach that brings Arusa de La'ela, that's the Adam Ki Yakriv. And then there is, after you work with your Nefesh Shabbat, you come to Shavuos. Now the Torah has a new dimension in it. The Torah has a dimension of Loy Adam. What does that mean? He says, Adam. So the whole Torah, which is based on Adam, has a whole new light, a whole new energy, a whole new depth, because the Torah, so to speak, accessed from the place of Loy Adam. The defined Torah accessed its source of energy from the undefined Torah. Lahamshich misham, from the place of Loy Adam, hamshach chadash, nu hamshach into the Torah of Adam. Torah is based on structure. Torah is based on Adam. Torah is, so to speak, Hashem's persona. All of Torah relates to structure, relates to definition. There's Ramach mitzvah, Sesed, Shasamid. All of Torah is an explanation of the mitzvahs. Any sugya in Shas and Poskim, it's one mitzvah or another mitzvah. Either you're learning Hilchas Pesach, Hilchas Ribbis, Hilchas Muktzah, Hilchas Erevin, Hilchas Brachas, or Hilchas Korban Pesach. But it's one of the Shasah, the Ramach. It's all in the existence of Adam. It's Hashem's Adam. It's a divine Adam. This is the Torah, what we call the Torah of Atzilus, the Torah of Adam, the Torah of the divine. But really, there's something Loy Adam. Now, usually, the Torah that we have is Zoysa Torah Adam. When a person works through the Nefesh Shabbat, what that does is, the gift of Isarusa de La'ela Vayerd Hashem Al Har Sinai is not like the gift from before. The gift from before was a gift in order to inspire your work. Once that work is done, Shavuos is the experience of an intimacy with Hashem himself, Vayerd Hashem Al Har Sinai. His Galus Ritzoyne V'chachmasi Lamata, and he says what? That in your Torah, you have an aspect of the Loy Adam, and that infuses the Torah of Adam with a whole new dimension, because you reach the Torah of Loy Adam, and that can only happen through the Nefesh Bahamas, because as long as the person remains in the world of being inspired from above, so then they're inspired from above, they're inspired from the light of above. When the person manages to go in to the choshech of the Nefesh Bahamas and transform it, so now you have the Yisra Na'or Mitoich HaChoshech, the light that comes from transforming the darkness, that reaches a place that's beyond light. When you transform the darkness, you reach a place that's beyond light. You reach back to the source of the darkness. Yisra Na'or Mitoich HaChoshech, it's a whole different type of light. So this allows you to go beyond the Iris and the Kalim, which is Adam, because in order to transform the darkness, you reach into a place that's beyond definition, where even darkness can be transformed into light, and therefore you can access from Torah that which is beyond structure. You access from Torah the undefined truth of Torah that is beyond definition, beyond description, and that reveals a whole new dimension in the Torah that you're learning. The Adam of Torah has a whole new Amshacha from the Loy Adam of Torah. Now, what type of learning is this? Huh?
Would you correlate what you said earlier about this being the Neshama of Torah? Like, well, that's too much Nister Nigla, really. Yeah.
No, in Nister itself, this is another dimension. Nister, the Arizal says, when we learn, it says, Bereshis Bara. The Torah starts with a base. Why does Torah start with a base? So Arizal says, because we're already learning Torah only second Torah. We're not learning the first level of Torah. That's what Arizal says. You always start with it. You also see, open up a Gemara, Daf Beis. What's Daf Aleph?
Got your passport.
Huh?
We were told that a cheres kadmon l'Torah. That's right.
Okay. And you got a frask when they said that? Okay. So derech eretz kadmon l'Torah, good. Aleph. Especially if you can give a frask, is noch besser. To really inspire. We take a see how much derech eretz you have. In a good way, in a good way. So that's the Aleph. The Arizal says, what's the Aleph? The Aleph is, we say in Birchas HaTorah, we say, Al Teirascha Shalima de Tunnel. Yeah, what's the Lashon in benching? No, Al Shechad Lav Sen, Val Teirascha Shalima de Tunnel. He says it's two things. There's the Teirascha, and there's the Torah that you teach us. The Torah that you teach us. There's a Gemara in Tainus that Ptolemy, the king of Egypt, Ptolemy HaMelech, you know the story, he brought in 70 elders to translate the Torah into Greek. Right? The Septuagint, Targum HaShivim. The problem is they knew that when you translate, there's a lot of issues that are going to come up. One of the issues, so Hashem helped that all the 70 were mechaven to make the same changes for the Greek translation. The first change they made is Bereshis Bara Elikim sounds like Bereshis created God. Bereshis, whoever is Mr. Bereshis, yeah, who lives in Kentucky, Bara Elikim, he created God. We type Bereshis. In the beginning, Hashem created. So they made the translation in a way that Elikim Bara Bereshis. God created the beginning. This is a fascinating thing. In their Torah, it starts with an Aleph. Elikim Bara Bereshis. Our Torah starts with a base, their Torah starts with an Aleph. So Alpinista the Pshat is, because depends who's learning and how you're learning. The Torah that the Jewish people had starts with a base, because the real Torah is the real Torah of Atzilus. The Torah of Aleph. Aleph is Atzilus, base is Bria. In other words, it's the Torah of Adam. It's really a divine Torah. When we're learning Torah, you're learning Shorsh Nagachas Apara, a bull gored an ox. Yeah. Psula Nisas L'Yom Revi. A girl gets married L'Yom Revi. Shnayim Achs and Batalis. People are fighting about a talis. Or whatever the halach is, Sukkah Gvoya. We're learning about pots and pans and animals and cows and huts and marriages, whatever Mishnah you're learning. Yeah, that's the Torah of our world. The same Torah, like we learned once, it's a mashal for a nimshal. We learned in a Purim, my Mechaya Vinish. There's 3,000 levels of Torah. Every level is a mashal for deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, till you get back to the first mashal, to the first nimshal. The first nimshal here we're talking about is Adam. What's Adam? That's the Torah of Aleph. That's the whole, every idea in the whole Torah representing a truth of the divine. But this is a big avodah to be able to trace back the Nigla to the Nister. This is where the world of Kabbalah and the world of Nigla are synchronized, are really synchronized. And the world of Kabbalah, the world of Nister is not a separate Torah. It's like the back-end code. It's like you have a display on the computer. It's a beautiful computer. Everything is easy. But all the program, if there are programmers sitting here, you know that what people see on the computer, this is a tipim and ayam. This is just for dummies like myself. What are we going to tell people? We're going to tell you how to program it? We just do the program at the end. The geniuses sit by their computers 3 o'clock in the morning, and they ever see what programmers, what their screens look like. Yeah, it gives you a headache. I once watched a programmer do some work. And I said, you sit with this 12 hours a day? He says, 14 hours a day. And I say, you don't commit suicide? He says, no, I love it. I said, why am I going crazy? He says, well, du verstehst garnished. Okay. All you see is, yeah, an R and a C and then 9 times 2 and then 6 exclamation points. You don't see anything. It's like a person reading music notes and they don't know how to read music notes. Another person reads a music book and they start dancing, they start singing. So the back end is really where it's all about, and then you have the display on the outside. So those are the two components of Torah, the Aleph and the Beis. Of course, in each one there's many madrigas, but that's still all Adam of Torah. Here we're talking about the Loy Adam of Torah. The Loy Adam of Torah is really where Torah meets the place of undefined energy, of undefined reality. It's not defined reality in terms of spirituality. So you have the mitzvah of matzah physically, you have the mitzvah of matzah metaphysically, you have the halachas of boirer physically, taking out the peas of your salad, and you have the halachas of boirer psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, higher and higher and higher. Here you're reaching a place of kiloy adam, which is beyond definition, beyond description. In other words, it's finding that Torah is a mashal hakadmaini for kadmainoi shalaylam, for soivav kalam, and for that which is beyond Adam. That's already in Nister itself. That's a different pchin of Torah. That's touching in Torah the element where there's no definition, the undefined pure essence of God, and how that reinforms the world of structure and definition. That's the Isarus Leil that comes only after Isarus Lusat. I know, yeah.
I'm struggling to integrate this with last year.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.